Welcome to Raging Bullets, episode 333. We take a look at The Flash and Wonder Woman. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge. I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot segulent, and the Duke of You Know.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at The Flash, looking at issues 0, the annual number 1, and 13 and 14. With Wonder Woman, we're going to be taking a look at 0, 13, and 14 as well, as we continue our look at the New 52. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Once again, sponsoring this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com this month, they're doing another 50% off DC trades and hardcovers. This is all new DC trades and hardcovers, stuff that you can do for pre-orders. 50% off is a great deal, especially in a month where I know for myself, budget gets tighter, things like that. Go over and check DCBService.com out and get a 50% off deal on any of the new DC trades and hardcovers you'd like to order for this month. Also, remember, they are a Comixology digital partner. Any of your digital purchases you do over at DCBService.com, you earn 5% of those purchases in credit towards DCB Service orders. It doesn't cost you any more to do your digital shopping that way. It's helping out a show sponsor, and it gives you some credit for purchases you are already making. So please consider going to our website, clicking on the links, and going over to DCBService.com and doing your shopping. Over at InStockTrades.com, these are really cool. They've got those New 52 omnibuses. This is that 0-issue omnibus. This collects all the 0 issues. The page count is 1,328 pages. It's a $150 book regularly. 50% off, only $74.99. If you were looking at this book at all and saying to yourself, it's a little out of my price range, when you cut that 50% off of it, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more affordable. Would make a great holiday gift, so there's still time to do that. That's the DC Comics New 52 Omnibus hardcover from InStockTrades.com. Remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping, so you actually get free shipping on that book as well. Mr. Sensei, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot, the comics we're discussing on the show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Without further ado, let's talk The Flash.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes The Flash.
Jim, our first chat this show is going to be about Flash number 0. Story by Francis Manapul and Brian Buccellato. Art by Francis Manapul. Colors by Brian Buccellato. Ian Herring. And letters by Wes Abbott. The associate editor is Chris Conroy and the editor is Matt Idelson. I am so excited to talk about the 0 issue of this Flash book. It's been absolutely great. I was really concerned when we were going to be getting a Flash book that did not feature Jeff Johns as a writer, because I was really enjoying the artwork of Francis Manapul before, but I had no idea what the writing style would be like. Oh my gosh, am I pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoy this book. And this is no knock on Jeff Johns, but more a compliment to Francis Manapul. I actually find that I'm really enjoying this Flash series more than what's come before with Barry. And I think it's because we've got Barry in a place where he's much happier, there's much more hope, there's much more... it's this guy that, in spite of these horrid things that have happened in his life, is finding a way to see the best in it, to be that hero, to try and make things better. Everything that I think The Flash should be about is what this book is currently about. But that's me. What is your take?
I'm pretty much in a solid same boat as you are on this one. I'm really digging what I'm getting and who I'm getting to understand who Barry is. He was a character that I wasn't a diehard Flash, junkie before, and then as the end of the old 52, the old DCU, I started getting to the character, going, okay, yeah, this guy's pretty neat, all right. And then when everything rebooted, I really got from ground floor just a character that, okay, I get the love of the Flash, I understand it now, and it's, for me, this is another one of those titles that the New 52 has actually helped me lock onto. And really, this is my Flash. Okay, I get Barry Allen. I see why everyone was always like, Barry's my Flash. No, Wally, no. And I could see the passion and the fire behind the devotion for the character. So this is, this is another title that the New 52 has really helped me appreciate.
I love the visual styling of this book. There's something about just the whole art team. And I when I say that, I mean penciling, inking, coloring. There is a like filter that looks like it's being used for this book that you see in films sometimes where it's clear that they're using certain photographic filters to set a style choice. This book is nothing but style, and it's a style that matches exactly the story that's being told here. It matches the sense of speed. It matches the sense of classic quality set today. And it's like a modern classic feel to it, which I guess I know it's like a weird term I'm using because I don't really have the artistic term to use, but there is something that feels very today and very modern, yet there is those classic sensibility moments. It's what I like about work from like Darwin Cooke, for example. It's got that right kind of vibe for me, yet it's unique in its own, but I just see certain influences in there that of what I really like about the work of Darwin Cooke that really fits in this particular presentation. That is something I really, really enjoy here that fits to me what the Flash should look like.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, there's a classic comic book, with its own little artistic twist to it. So it's not just a classic comic book, which I like that style, but there is definitely a specialization for the Flash. You need to have a little bit more showing of the motion, showing of the flow, showing of the Flash. You need to have that style to it. And again, this is another, art team, full-on art team. Especially, I really do really enjoy the coloring. It's just, there's enough, of the red, there's enough of the pop, there's enough of the energy, but it's not overpowering. It's not, we're not being lost in the sea of red. We're getting, that energy. We're getting that fire. We're getting that style that you need to have. And in a flashy style character, but it's not overdone. It's subtle enough, but still out there, still enough of a presence.
I think one of the things that I'm really liking about the New 52 and why I'm enjoying the book so much is that there doesn't seem to be like this heavy focus on a company style. It seems to be more of a focus on what is the right style for this character and this story that's being told. And I think that's really, really an important thing. Each book starts to feel very distinct. And it feels fresh when you pick up a different title. You're kind of pulled into a mood that fits the uniqueness of the book. And I really think moving forward, this is something that they really need to stick with. Because I really do feel like each book is special because they're doing more of this. And I could see somebody maybe if they don't particularly care for the style and choice of a certain title, they'll find something in another title because each title is unique. They're not all cookie cutter. There's a lot of artistic creativity going on here in both the writing and the story that I think is really, really important to develop an attach rate to books. And Flash is certainly one of those, especially in these sequences when you're talking about him with his dad. Oh, yeah. I really loved these moments because I really feel like by the end of this issue, we're still left with the same mystery that we're getting in the beginning. We're seeing Barry come to terms with it. And I really like that the resolution of this wasn't that Barry has proven Dad's innocence. He's still stuck with believing that Dad's innocent. That's something that's a belief. But there's a number of mysteries, there's a number of question marks and clues that were thrown throughout this issue that for me made me more curious to read the ongoing series because I want to see, I don't think there's anything that was a throwaway here. I felt like there were parts where I was questioning, I even at some point was questioning if this is even Barry's real dad, which is really a strange thing to say. But with the way that the story unfolded and played out in himself, I'm not entirely sure that Dad behind bars is Barry's dad from the way that Mom and Dad's relationship was.
And the way his friend, his mom's friend,
yes,
was, and the way he reacted, and the way he's, that was the first thought. Two thoughts popped in my head when I was reading this. One, could the friend have actually possibly done it? Crime of passion and whatnot, or is the friend actually Barry's biological father? And is there something goofy going on? And if that's the case, that immediately threw more suspicion at Barry's dad. And I used to think that Barry's dad is 100% innocent. I'm like, you know what? There may be a measure of guilt there. He may have actually done it. He could have found out about the affair. He could have found out that Barry isn't his kid and just lashed out and had that emotional, crime of passion. Or, there's so much more mystery and unknown with this. And I kind of like the fact that we don't have the solid answer. I'm hoping eventually one day we get a definite yes/no answer. But right now, where the series is, I don't need it. I like the mystery. I like the unknown.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's one of the cool things about this has been that I don't need all the answers laid out for me right now. I really liked that they gave us a lot of story here with clues and tidbits that you're interested in. I feel there's something definitely off between, the policeman who takes him in. It's Chire? Or am I doing that? We'll see when we get to it. I keep forgetting the name because I keep going between my own feelings. Fryer. I'm sorry. Fry. It's Frye. Fry?
Yeah.
Captain Daryl Fry. And I keep jumping back to characters from Flash's past. That's why I was pulling Chire into that. But one of the things with him was I was constantly throughout this questioning him on some level. Like, what are his motivations? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he something in the middle, a gray area? I don't know. I want to believe that he's intrinsically good because he just seems like this nice, friendly guy. You could see Barry being inspired by him and his police work, but you feel like there's a secret with him. And there's actually issues later that allude to that even further. Like where the point comes in, like, I know who you really are, and we'll have to talk about that when we get to it. But there was something about this that all the way through I found myself questioning Barry's dad, whether or not he's the real dad. And I love that Barry seems to just I like Barry's belief that his father was innocent. I love that he, at certain points in time in the story, goes back to favorite childhood memories with Dad and tries to use those as a way to kind of... He's not afraid to face that he has, that part of him that's... I'm this son that wants to be loved by his dad. My memories are, even though Dad and I were different, I want to connect with my dad. Those special moments where Dad's acknowledging me and we have those times together. I wish Dad acknowledged them the same way I did, but yet there's that part of me that was glad that I had those moments because I had those times, and I think those are very human and very normal. Fathers and sons are going to be different people. You're going to have some commonalities that you find along the way, but when you're raised, hopefully, if your parents are doing a good job, you do become your own person and have your, own unique, distinct things that do separate you from your parents. And I loved those endearing moments with Barry and his dad when he was really younger, because I think it pays off into understanding why he's so loyal to his dad now, why he doesn't believe that his life was an illusion. And I don't think it was. I think everything that he thought was true, and any of the things you and I were speculating about, I don't think shatters Barry's opinion of his life. I think everything Barry believes is true. I don't think Barry knows the whole story, though.
Oh, definitely. And that's part of the coolness that is this title right now. That there is this mystery, there is this unknown, and it's something that's going to unfold. And this is something I don't think we're going to see for a while. But eventually it'll probably unfold. It'll probably come out to the light as to what exactly is going on. But I don't know. It's funny because I threw out, multiple times how I flip-flop and I've wondered what's going on. I just want to 100% say I think the guy is a good guy. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's a bad guy. I do think he is Barry's dad. I'm going to just completely, by the end of this issue and by the end of everything we've read up to so far, my 100%, I think that Barry, behind bars dad, is not Barry's dad. I'm thinking Captain Fry is actually Barry's biological father. And it's, one of those where, mom and mom were special friends. And... well, guess what? Surprise. Now, I still don't know about the guy behind the bars, the Alan, whether he is actually killed the mom or somebody else did it. And I still haven't 100% put my fingers on that one.
One of the things I really like about how that plays out, like when Barry's in the hospital and he's recovering from what happened to him in his accident, when Daryl comes to his bedside, he says that, I've got this great news, about making captain. But I needed my family to hear it.
Yeah.
And those moments were making me wonder, I'm like, how, is it obviously taking in Barry makes Barry his family. So I could see that being as simple as that. It really could be just that. So even though there's that part of me that's questioning it, there is that part of me that does openly see the other side of it, like maybe I'm reading too much into this. And that's cool because I think that adds to the whole mystery. I'm seeing the multiple possibilities in what's happening here. And when I was throwing out before, is this guy a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he somewhere in the middle? It's more that I'm seeing all those possibilities. I'm with you, actually. I thought your points were absolutely correct. I do think he's a good guy. I think that anything we're going to find out about him that's a secret or a mystery to him is not going to be something that's going to tarnish that. And I think that there's going to be a reason why it was a secret. And that we're going to see those reasons, and we're still going to be behind him. My question is going to be whatever those secrets are, whether it is about Barry's parentage or something else, how Barry's going to react to it. And what is it going to take Barry to get over that? Because Barry does seem to be this guy that sees the best in people. And I like that about him.
Oh, God, yeah.
He really feels like a tried and true hero in the DC universe. And I think we need one of those. That guy that you just can kind of count on and go to. But yet, the way that they've revamped Barry, I think they've revamped him in an appropriate way that he feels like relevant today. He doesn't feel out of date anymore. I think when he first came back, he felt like this guy, and that's one of the things I did like about that story back then, is you brought back this old guy from the past, and he felt like a fish out of water. And there was something interesting about that story. But now that we've got the New 52, and this is a much younger Barry, tone-wise, I like this guy more because he feels today. And I think that's where relaunching him into the New 52 has worked to the advantage of this book. The Barry we're reading now, the distinct difference between him is not that he's so much of a different guy from that one prior to the New 52. It's more of him being younger and being a part of this world means that he's been crafted in such a way where he's got the same Barry Allen sensibilities, but he feels a little bit more with it. And I like that about him. I like that he feels more with it. I feel I identify with him more because he feels more with it.
Oh, yeah. And you mentioned when Barry's in the hospital and the Captain Fry's like, hey, I got good news I want to share with the family. The other thing that struck me on that scene was when he's sitting there talking about, I can't lose you like I lost your mother. And just you could see the love that this guy had for Barry's mom. You could just, and that for me was the linchpin in my mind of, Barry's lineage. And then also the other thing, you kind of look the way they drew him. I see a father-son resemblance between Barry and him, more so than what I saw between Barry and his father. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm just reading it or don't know if we're reading more into this, but I just, for some reason, when I look at the guy, I see like if I hold the two images next to each other, I see right there, I see a father-son. And, I personally, I hope that's the case, and I hope we get to see that. But again, it's part of the whole thing. What will happen if it's revealed? How is it revealed? How will Barry react to it? How will what is going to go on in his life, knowing that will he still keep trying to fight to free the Alan that's in jail, the guy who he thought was his father? Will he what would he do? How will he do it? And it's questions that raise in my head, and when I start thinking off page is when I really realize, okay, I'm really digging this character.
I like that in Barry's childhood memories, he's able to look back and see, first of all, I loved the design of the house. I loved the artwork there. I know they use that filter to kind of show, that coloring filter to kind of show that was in the past and all that. The shading and the tones of it all worked great. There was something that felt very classic, very Leave It to Beaver, in this presentation, which I think is really appropriate for Barry's home life. But then, in spite of all that, you see Dad quietly getting his stuff ready for work, and the Nora now. That moment, and then you see the two of them, whatever he's showing Nora, what is that? Is that something she's showing him? Is that something? I think it's something he gave her. Like Barry, I think we're left wondering what was all that about. And I really like that because, again, it goes back to what I love the most. I feel like I'm riding along with the main character. We're seeing Barry's memory and trying to figure these things out along with Barry. That's a really important attachment with Barry because when he came back previously, I felt like the cool part about Barry, or what I was enjoying about the story, was the fact that he felt like this time-lost guy who didn't feel like he belonged. You understood kind of why he was pushing everyone away and why he wasn't feeling like a part of the world, and I got all that. This guy, it's just the opposite. you see this kid who's growing up in what seems to be a pretty healthy home environment for him, but he's seeing things that are out of place. And I think we all see that, because that's humanity. There is no such thing as perfect. But I really like that I'm looking at his life and going, okay, he's got two good parents, at least what seems to be like two good parents to me. This does give me some confidence that dad, whether he's real dad or not, is pretty much so a good guy, but that there was something between the two of them that was causing friction, which lends me to this idea that maybe Nora was having an affair on the side, and what was leading to that, I don't know. But it was something that I really enjoyed in the whole thing, was this unfolding mystery that we got to see through Barry's eyes as well.
Yeah, and again, just when I look at that scene with the Nora now, first thought of that pops in my head is, were those the blood results?
Could have been.
The linear, right there, did Dad say, "Hey, I need to know if Barry's my kid," or is it? It's just, I'm stuck on that for some reason, and who knows what it could be. And again, I part of me thinks the guy did it, but I'm like, I don't want to think that. I want to think that he's innocent. I don't want to think one day that Barry will prove his innocence. But there's just something in the back of my head. Just, you kind of see, a little bit of coldness, a little bit of distance between. There's definitely was something going on, and 9 times out of 10 when you get these type of murders, it is the spouse. That's usually why they're the first suspect, because it's, whether it's the crime of passion, whether it's the affair, whether it's money issues, whether it's who knows what, there's always that sign. That's always the prime suspect. But I do love the fact that Barry does hold on to it. And Barry, even when he's visiting the dad in prison, he still holds on to it. He still is thinking, no, I can't believe he did that.
Even with the dad trying to push him away on this one.
Yeah. And it was funny, because those were the scenes that really convinced me the dad was innocent. Because it was one of those where the dad saying, "Hey, I'm guilty, let it go," just so Barry won't, commit his whole life to this struggle. Barry will go on and move on and actually live a life and have something in his life. Again, and that's, to me, is like, that's a great sacrifice a parent would make. So I'm like, and as I'm sitting there, and that's the quandary I'm in. I get moments where I think the dad's this great guy, and he is the dad, and then there's other times where I think, no, he's not. But also, these are all memories. These flashbacks are memories from a child. So who knows exactly what happened? There may have been a couple stuff that Barry didn't see, or it didn't register in his head. And that's something else. I wonder if they'll ever unfold that, and maybe there's an extra line in there when those two are talking right before the mom dies. Maybe there's another little clue that we don't know about.
I love that it's a traumatic flashback from, like, while he's going through this thing after his accident.
Yeah.
And his first discovery of his powers comes from, like, really being forced to run because, subconsciously he's kind of driving himself to this. And that moment where he goes, "Where am I?" It was really great, because we know what happened to him as readers, because we know who the Flash is and what he's all about. But to see that discovery along with Barry through this memory that he's going through is something. The one thing I noticed with Daryl in that one, Daryl was very familiar with who Barry was, and that his mother wouldn't know that he wants to be alone, but was also introducing himself to Barry for the first time, which led me to question, why is Barry because I don't know, as a kid, I was pretty well aware of who my parents' friends were.
Yeah.
Why would Barry not know who this guy was? If this guy's close enough with his mom that he would be willing to take Barry in, then why doesn't Barry know him? And that could be me digging. That could be using my personal experience to dig, because that wouldn't be necessarily fair to say that every situation would be that way. But there's definitely my own personal experience saying, I knew who all my parents' friends were.
Yeah.
So why, especially if they were in town. I'm not saying I knew everybody that lived, like, in other states, but this guy's local. So why would Barry have no idea who this guy was in this circumstance? And that was something that stood out for me as well.
Yeah, and that's, again, is more just for me, it's more argument for the affair and for something beyond that, because if the mom's having an affair with a guy, Barry's not going to know about it. They'll keep that separate, they'll keep that away, and you don't let the kid know about mommy's special friend, because kids they're not going to lie. They're not going to cover. They'll just talk about, oh, yeah, I was hanging out with Mommy and her friend.
Yeah.
Oh, what friend's that? It's... So, it adds to the whole argument of, the mom, and him were having something else.
I loved seeing the whole creation of Barry's suit.
Yes.
That bit for me was great because it showed why it's a little bit different, but I also loved that it was cool for Barry. I'm a huge fan of that in comics. A lot of times we have a lot of darkness surrounding heroes, and I like those dark characters. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Batman junkie, it's obviously duh. But I like the flip side of, I was also a fan growing up of characters like Captain Marvel. I love the Shazam TV show, and he was a tried and true, in-your-face, definite superhero. Same thing with Spider-Man. Spider-Man was your fun kind of... He made it believe that it was fun to be a hero. That 60s show, I had so many great one-liners, and it was really fun to be Spidey. That kind of part was neat. And Superman also had that aspect of, it was, cool to be Superman. This stuff with Barry, I eat up. Because it really feels like we're on board with him discovering for the first time how to make that outfit. And his outfit, I really like, out of the New 52, out of the starting it, I really liked the changes to the Flash outfit. I love the way that it kind of organically folds around him now. It feels very modern, it feels very today. It also adds this sense of when the suit, as a kid, I remember when he popped the suit out of the ring as a kid, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Over time, it kind of lost some of that only because it wasn't as modern feeling. Like when I was a kid and I saw that, it felt like something like it could never happen in a million years. For some reason, it lost some of that along the way. I think it just became too... You'd seen it too many times. It became almost redundant. Now it's fresh. And yet it's only been a slight tweak, so it goes back to the original concept, which was great and brilliant, so I'm totally giving a nod back to the original concept, because that's where it's coming from. It's only been slight little tweaks that have modernized it, honoring everything that came before, because it does feel uniquely Barry, uniquely the Flash, yet there's something about it that looks very today, very cool. It's just proof that if you take a great idea and just give it a slight little tweak, you can still use that great idea today and make it something that feels relevant and current. I don't know. For me, I just geeked out at it.
Yeah, and it was funny because the suit was always something that it used to bother me. I don't want to say bothered because that makes it sound like I didn't enjoy it. But there was always this little nagging hint in the back of my head about, he's able to stuff a suit in the ring, and and it was like, oh, really? But I kind of... This one, really seeing him build it, seeing the multiple steps that went through, seeing the fact that he started off with an armor that started reacting to the energy of the Speed Force, I was like, you know what? I kind of like that, because I liked how he used to talk about Wally West, where it was actually a creation of the Speed Force. And I'm like, okay, that makes more sense to me. That's more superhero-ish. Well, again, this now has that superhero-ish feel to it. It has that, same thing like how I like the Superman costume. I like that armored look because I wanted something supernatural for Superman. Well, the Flash, we now have something supernatural. It's not just a costume. It is something beyond, and it's not just the Speed Force. There is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. There's a little bit that is just pure Flash. And for me, that is a cool thing. And that's something that, I enjoyed. And I really appreciated the art sequence, again, of that full page, one single panel, full page spread, but it was broken down within there. So you see the multiple tries, you see the multiple variations on what he did to get the actual final copy.
Yeah, and I really liked that. I liked how that all played out. I also love the introduction of Daniel West, because he's another character that's being introduced for the purpose of bringing him into the whole Iris West storyline that's currently happening. But, it's again adding to this idea that the West family, obviously, and I get geeking out over that because I'm hoping eventually it'll lead to a Wally West. But Daniel West is her brother. And, the idea that, he was this criminal, it shows Barry apprehending him, but then it also, as Flash, but then also shows him almost escaping. And not only does Barry take this guy down, but in that moment, he has to make the decision with Dad. Does he let Dad go, or does he just say, I believe in your innocence, this isn't the way to do it? And I loved seeing that morality issue for Barry.
Yeah.
Because he could have let Dad escape, but he didn't. And there was something about that. I liked his saying you're never going to be free if you go this way. We're never going to prove your innocence if you go this way. And I believe you're innocent. I believe this is the wrong way to do it. And there's something uniquely Barry in that. I don't know what I would do in that situation. I don't think anybody does. You'd like to say I would go the Barry route, but how does anybody know until you're actually in that situation? I loved the way that played out because it was one of those moments where I'm like, I get all the questions that were probably going through Barry's head in that moment. I get the questions that are going through Dad's head in that moment. And I just loved how that played off.
Yeah, oh god, yeah. That was again a true hero moment. We get these true superhero moments from Barry, and that's a flash fact, if you will. That's, you have to do the right thing, and that's something about the character that I've gotten to really appreciate and enjoy. And it's that same type of dun-da-da moments I get from Superman. I'm getting those from the Flash. I'm getting those, those moments where I'm like, this is a hero. This isn't a vigilante. This isn't a costumed Avenger. This is a hero. And that is, you need to have that from the Flash. And you see it in the costume and out of the costume. Test of a man's mettle isn't always doing the easy thing. It's doing what's right. And right there, you see, the right thing is, hey, sorry, Dad, can't let you escape.
There's moments in that where you see Dad's eyebrows and eye color. Mm-hmm. And I look at with Barry's eyebrows and eye color. It could be just the artist's style and everything like that's making me think that. I'm like, now I wonder if that is real Dad.
Yeah.
Because there's moments where I'm like, and I like that it doesn't discount what I was thinking before, but it does keep the game going. Is it or isn't it, and all that. I just love the mystery. I love that this book has got me to the point where I'm saying to myself, I care that there's a mystery here.
Yeah.
And whether it's totally something that I've fabricated in my own head or not, I don't care. I'm really enjoying that because it's one of many mysteries going on in the Barry Allen book that I'm really digging. There's just tons of them going on throughout this thing, and I think that's been the true joy of this thing. Both with Barry and the Rogues and Grodd and all of these things that they're introducing, they're pulling everything that's great about the Flash mythos. They're adding these epic storylines where, like, you were talking about how you don't think some of these things are going to pay off for a while. That's the Flash to me. There's great storytelling that's long term. My favorite runs, Mark Waid and Jeff Johns, both had that in them. The great thing about both of those authors when they were working on this particular title was they told long-form stories. And while you had an arc that would pay itself off, there were little teasers and tidbits that maybe would go on for a year and a half, maybe even 2 years before we'd actually see the payoff of them. And because there was so much going on in the book, you never felt like, wow, when are they going to finally pay this off? It just didn't matter because there's so much story being told. We've got Iris stuck in, this other world. We've got, all these things that are going on that yet we know are going to take a while to pay off. Barry is technically still missing.
Yeah.
We're seeing that pay off in some of the issues that we're going to be talking here, or not. We don't know how that is going to pay off yet, but it's clear that all of a sudden Barry's going to be back in the eyes of the supporting cast. And I'm really loving the way that this is all unfolding. Like, how is he going to get out of each mess that he's been put into? It's a great book. I'm glad we're having a chance to talk about this and to talk through multiple issues, because this is another one of those where I think the Flash has finally gotten back to what I've always considered. There was times where the Flash was one of only a handful of titles that I was reading. And because I didn't have a budget, I was in college during the time, and I needed to go down to titles that only had, like one book that they were going into. And I would still pick up a Batman title here or there, but I was not able to read the whole Batman line, for example, which was very odd for me, but I didn't have the budget. But I had in there books like Flash, books like Starman, books like Aquaman, because there were creators that were putting those books together that were making them feel like epic events that you were getting previously from crossovers through multiple titles. And Flash feels like that again. We're going to be talking about big events in this with the Rogues that unfold into this other huge event with Grodd that I'm just like, wow, is this awesome? This is the same caliber quality of the events I think we've been talking about with things like Rot World, things that are going on in the Green Lantern books with Batman, but it's happening in one title. And I really like how this book's playing out, that I'm getting that kind of huge, big event feel in the Flash. Because it's always had that for me. Anytime you've heard me talk with endearment about the Flash, it's this kind of storytelling that's led to that. This is a creative team that I want to see have a huge run because they get it. They get what makes good Flash storytelling. I see this creative team in general being up there in the way that I talk about Jeff Johns and Mark Waid when it comes to the Flash, if it continues down this path, because it really is a home run.
Oh, big time. Especially, with this reimagining and retelling of... retelling of. I don't want to say reimagining because these seem like the same rogues, but it is little tweaks, little changes, little variations in them. And these are variations that occurred within this universe. And we're getting flashbacks and they're telling how this happened to them, but this kind of beefing up of their powers. Now, the rogues were cool. I always liked the rogues. I liked the rogue code. I like how they'd stick together. And I even liked the fact that their primary focus was they all wanted to take out the Flash. They all were going down, we're all gunning for him, as well as, hey, let's make some money along the route. They had that kind of, it wasn't the maniacal, I'm going to take over the world. It was the maniacal, I'm going to make me some money and I'm going to kill me a Flash. I always liked that style, and seeing them beef up their powers, personalize it so it's not just weaponry that they're using, they're actually becoming metas. For me, was a nice twist and a nice feel to the rogues, and I hope they stay this way. I hope we don't get them back in the other way. But the funny thing is, if they were to ever shift them back, if they ever undo what happened to them, I'd be okay with that as well, because those rogues are cool characters.
Catharsis, that was my winning word. Kind of funny when you think about it. I really miss you, Mom. I still don't believe that Dad could do that to you. I don't think I ever will. But I don't need him to be innocent anymore. I just want him to be. It makes sense to me now. I know that everything that happened, everything that I had to go through, it was for a reason. It made me who I am. And who am I? I'm Barry Allen, the fastest man alive. I am the Flash. That moment where you see him there, it's very bright. You got this, the world around him, very stylized. It harkens back to Darwin Cook, and I don't want to say it like an insult. I mean it as a compliment, because I've always loved his styling. Yet these creators have clearly made it something their own. There's something hopeful in it. There's something bright. There's something exciting. You want to be the Flash. Like, he's one of those heroes, I want to be the Flash. There's no part of him that I don't want to be. I think he's one of those heroes that you just kind of like, I want to don that costume. I want to have the super speed. I want to be... That's the kind of hero I'd want to be, because people like him. Even when they don't like him, you can see him being the kind of guy that can turn that tide. You know what I mean? Yeah. It just kind of works. And there's something about his world. He's one of those heroes that I would hope on some level I could be. Speaking of continuing on with the Flash, take a look at that annual.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, those things are... I've been really... Do you like the annual concept? Because, I mean, we're getting these oversized books that really are continuing on major storylines. I think the use of the annuals myself, and even though, like, in some cases we've got the same creative team that are in the book, other cases like this one, it's Marcus 2 is on the pencils and inks, Ian Herring on colors, and it's the same letterer. But Francis Manapul did the breakdowns on the artwork. And there's something about, like, the creative choices they're using for these art teams. At no point in time have I found them jarring. I really like the use of the annuals because they feel like they're part of the big story that's going on in the main title. They don't feel like this divorced book that doesn't, like, connect in any way, shape, or form. Even like that one with Mr. Freeze, that Batman one, where it gave us like an understanding of who Mr. Freeze is in the New 52. That feels like it's part of the main book. It's not a throwaway story. I've really dug these. Are you into this?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. I'm liking this, and it's weird with me and annuals. Depending on the story that's going on, I either want the annual to just be a continuation of the current story, or an epic conclusion to the story, or I want these side stories. Like, especially with the New 52, I kind of, it's sometimes if I get a backstory, or I get a little bit something outside of the normal the normal current story arc, it'll throw me, or I'm like, I don't know. But with this, with the new 52, I'm liking both ways. I'm liking it when I get, maybe something a little bit different like the Mr. Freeze, or we're getting, continuation of the story, further explanation of the rogues. This was a really good rogue issue. This was a good usage of it and a good place to put it in there where you're not taking away Barry time from the main title. But you're still telling it. I'm contradicting myself and I'm catching myself do it, but it's weird because with this was a good balance of that for me. I got plenty of rogue story. I got plenty of non-Barry telling story, but I still got Barry development. I still got an understanding of who Barry is by understanding who his villains are, by understanding who the rogues are in this universe. And I think this was a good usage of the annual to tell this story.
One of the things that I really dug was in that sequence. I know I mentioned this storyline with Dad and Barry already earlier in our conversation. I want to go back to it really quick because it's the opening of this particular issue. But I like how this Barry learning how to run in this environment from his childhood memory, going back to that as an adult, trying to run as the Flash in this place, recognizing like things that he learned from his dad in the racing when they went to that event together is something that he's bringing into adult, experience. And we're understanding how this kid who is like the science expert would have these kind of understandings of speed and how he's like this speed guy now that he never saw himself being because that was kind of Dad's thing. I thought that was kind of cool. But it also shows, like, later when he's in the mirror universe, why he would have a skill set to be able to, in these slippery surfaces, run around and manipulate it. It's because of practicing on situations like this that he's able to kind of take that next step. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was something that was kind of neat, how that little bit furthered Barry's story, showed us more about, like, what's important to him as a human being, but also showed us how, as the Flash, he's evolving. Because he even, there's one point in time where the rogues, talk about how they've evolved, and Barry comes in and goes, guess what? I've evolved too. I really dug that, because I think all of that stuff in the mirror universe where we see Barry being able to do certain things are because he trains himself, like in these moments. Connecting with his past, he's also evolving and furthering himself using those tools, using experience from life. And it's something I'm just eating up in this series.
Oh God, yeah. It's again the preparation. You talk about Batman being the master preparer. Well, we're seeing Barry in it. We're seeing the good heroes aren't just relying on. They're not just one-trick ponies. And especially we'll later see with his fight with Grodd just how he's improvising and he's bobbing and weaving and it's kind of that stick and move desperation fighting because he's up against something nasty. But you constantly always see that in Barry. You never see him quit. You never see him stop running. He keeps moving. He keeps moving forward, and that's again, it's tried and true, pure, true hero tactics. Never quit, never surrender.
I'd love to see how the artwork works in this annual, because in this chapter 2, you see with the rogues when they're first appearing there, that the art has shifted again. It's still Francis Manapul in the breakdowns, but now you've got the great Scott Collins doing the pencils and inks, and Mike Atiyeh on colors, and I apologize for any butchery there. It's also Desi Cienti on letters. Mike Atiya on colors. I've recognized the name. I've seen his work before. I know I've enjoyed it greatly. One of the things I really appreciate about how all these creative teams work together, I'd love to see what the breakdowns look like how that all evolved into the final artwork, because you can definitely tell that like you've got a Scott Collins influence here, as it's got that vibe to it, yet the whole thing does seem to connect. Like, breaking it down into chapters the way that they did, it really worked, like, throughout this annual, even though you have art shifts along the way. And I think it was, obviously, the choice of switching art teams slightly in order to, make the annual come out on time, make sure you got all the sequences done, really, I think the choices of who they picked on art really worked well together. They're very complementary. And it's very, obviously having Scott Collins on any level, working on a Flash book, so it totally works because he really gets the rogues. I love that battle with the police and the rogues because it, again, reminds us exactly what you were saying earlier, what the rogues' codes are, and how they were handling the police. Number one, we don't kill unless we have to. These cops, they're just doing their jobs the best way they know how. Number 2, we don't go near drugs. Not that we're without our vices, and I love that. That was a great line. It's just that drugs always lead back to violating rule number 1. And number 3, it's all about the score. 3 very simple rules. We stick to it. There's got to be honor in that. This idea that as thieves, this, the whole thing, there is no honor among thieves, but this idea that saying, hey, we're a little better than your average crook because of the fact that we have a code and we stick to it. That idea of somehow, there would be that guilt in being a criminal that would haunt you, but this trying to say, yeah, we're criminals, but we're a little better because of this. There's something I really liked about that because that seems honest and genuine to the whole criminal fraternity. Like that there would be people that just plain out don't care. They've kind of realized that they're, creeps and they're content to live with that. But I can see how these guys in particular, one of the things I've always liked about the Rogues is this sense of, especially with Captain Cold, there's honor. Yeah. And we've got a code. And we're a little better than you because of it. It separates them from Batman's universe. And I've always liked that the Flash Rogues have a very well-defined sensibility that makes them different than the Joker, the Riddler, the Penguin, and Two-Face. You expect all those guys to turn on each other with no problem and stab each other in the back. With the Rogues, you almost get irritated when they do it. Because you feel like, no, don't you guys understand that you are stronger when you are together? And that, you do have this code and you really should stick to it because when you're not, you're boneheads. Yeah. And I really like that there's that tone's different. It makes, again, the Flash universe very unique. Kudos again to the creative team for remembering that and bringing it home in a way that I think really right now in the New 52 you want to be defining at this stage for us moving forward because we don't want to keep going back to this. This is stuff that we want to put firmly and cemented in place so that way in future storytelling we see it play out. And we're seeing it play out in this big epic storyline. Doing this in an annual is the perfect place because it's not just a matter of putting it together in these panels. We get to see it pay out in this story. We get to see why it works and what happens when it doesn't in this story. And I think that's something that's really great as well.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned how with the code, how it's part of them, but it's also kind of a way to, deal with, the guilt or whatnot that could come from being a criminal. It's that type of guilt, that type of just feelings of, am I doing what's right or wrong, is an underlining principle in any interrogation, questioning, or anything of any of that nature when you're dealing with a suspect. It depends on who you're dealing with, what crime they committed. You can actually, manipulate and pull that out of a person and get that, you work on that sensibility of, hey, what I'm doing, hey, I just shot the guy. It's not like, I'm a mass murderer. It's not like I'm a serial killer. Yeah, I shot a guy because, we had an argument. It was just one of those things. You actually can play off of stuff like that. And there have been honest and true investigations where someone has committed murder or capital crimes or anything like that, and they honestly will sit there and try to justify it in their head. And as they're trying to justify it, they're confessing to this crime. They're confessing to murder one, but in their mind they're trying to justify, hey, really, the guy had it coming, or it was a drug deal gone bad, so I was just killing a drug dealer. Well, you still killed somebody, guy, and you still broke the law. And it's that whole kind of code that there isn't an honor among thieves, but there is still that human nature. There is still that justification that people don't want to say, hey, I'm a piece of garbage. Here's why I'm not a piece of garbage. This is what I did. I only did it because of this. I only did it because of that. And these rogues have that solid, they're flat out saying, we're not garbage because of this code, because of this honor. And I like that about them. I like that feeling about them, and I like that it's a very realistic, a very true, to the real world, that people would have this type of feelings, type of code, type of belief, especially within this type of group of thieves and liars. So you would need to have that to be able to associate within each other. If you didn't have that code, the whole time you're looking over your shoulder, the whole time you're looking over your back. And when you're at the hideout, when you're at the lair, when you're dividing up the loot, you don't want to completely be looking over your shoulder. You want to have some level of comfort.
Dr. Elias is one of those characters that, as readers, we're the only ones that really have seen every aspect of Dr. Elias. Because we see him right now egging on Captain Cold, who has thrown members of his team off to the wayside. And Elias is sitting here saying, but I've got a better idea for you, if you're interested. This guy, this manipulative guy, and I got to be honest with you, with Dr. Elias, this took me, I didn't catch this in the annual the first time through that it was Dr. Elias. I'm like, who is that guy that was with Captain Cold? I didn't register till later that this is the whole reason why Cold's sister is really mad at this guy, because he's the one that manipulated him to use that machine to begin with, which made her, no longer have tangible form. That's why she's, wants to revenge on him later. I gotta admit, I did not catch this the first time through. I just saw him as being some shadowy figure. Then I went back through later, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that was Dr. Elias. That's like not only did he play the Flash, he played the Rogues. I'm so interested. Like, this guy is another villainous character. And he is villainous, right?
Well, I'm glad you asked it like that, because he's one of those gray characters. He's done some nasty, evil stuff, but on one hand, you got to ask, what's his motivation behind it? He's not your Lex Luthor villain trying to take over the world. He's not your Joker crazy trying to kill the world for chaos or for his own sick, weird amusement. He is that, okay, what's he doing? Why is he doing it? Does he actually think he's doing right by the world? Is he misguided? Is he confused? Is he whatnot? I don't know where this guy is coming from. I'm still leaning on that he's a bad guy.
I vote on whatnot.
And I call him a villain.
I vote on whatnot.
Yeah, and whatnot. Yeah, but I don't know what kind of category of villain I put him in yet. I'm still trying to figure that out with him. And again, that's another cool part about the Flash, the unknown factor of this villain, of this character, of this, of someone who's now going to be a main Flash, villain. Where is he playing to this? What's his hand in all this stuff?
One of the things that I really liked with his sister, you see her motivation for being so mad at her brother. Yeah. Did you know you were the only one that wanted to go through with it? Did you even care? Or was it that all you cared about was that stupid code of yours? I really loved those moments because she's right. And yet you can see, why later on there would be this debate with the group over this whole idea of family and why they would trust him tentatively. The Rogues are an interesting group because usually with villains, I don't get the whole trust thing. Yet it's funny, with two groups I kind of do. I kind of got it with Secret Six. You know what I mean? Where, there were moments where you could see why certain members of them would trust each other, but yet you could also understand where they would turn on each other in those moments. Same thing with the Rogues. I get where they would turn on each other, but I also get why they would come back together. These are the really two villain groups that I have ever really felt like I genuinely get it. I get why they can trust each other. And that that moment of trust is genuine, that there are genuine feelings between them that draw them together. This debate with the sister I thought was absolutely brilliant, where we got to see her side of it, because, if you don't give us these motivations, what she's doing doesn't matter. The drive that she has to be better than her brother, to be the leader that her brother in her mind couldn't be, adds so much. And I honestly, out of the end of this, I don't care if she leads the team or if he does. I would be happy with either of them. I just want them both together on the team.
Oh, yeah. I definitely want to see the siblings working together and being all... I'd like to see the family unit back together again, and I kind of like him in control. No offense to her, but there's just... When he's in charge of things, it seems to be more about business. It seems to be more about the score. She right now is settling personal vendetta, which he also does, so I can't say that that's just her factors. He was gunning for blood as well. He was, gunning for the thing. But I think with him in charge of the Rogues, we would see more of complex capers, more of the complex, theft, and just that various variations on it. And but again, I could be completely off base, and she could be a really cool leader, and or we could very easily get some wonderful stories for her. So it's one of those things where I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride.
I like the checks and balances. I think the two of them together are brilliant. And I agree with you 100%. I'd like to see Cold lead it. And it's not because she's a female character. It's more of there's something about his code that I like him leading it. Like, if she had the code he has, I would easily flip it and let her be the leader, because I think his code's important to their team. I think it's what's distinctive about the Rogues. But I do like him having the one who's not afraid to really question the steps that he's taking, not afraid to push the limits, because to me, if it's a villain group, she's got to be saying, hey, wait a minute, why aren't we doing this? you know, what's the matter with you that we aren't doing this? And sometimes the bickering between the two, I like that the team calls them on it.
Yeah.
But yet there's points that are being brought up between the two of them. And you see when they listen to each other, they somehow improve and forward each other more. You know, and they even when they're angry at each other, as long as they're listening to each other's ideas, there's something about them that pushes each other forward. I really, really love that.
Yeah, it's classic sibling rivalry taken to another level, because you're dealing with superpowers. You're dealing with just this crazy universe that is the DCU, but it still has a realistic feel to it. As we're talking about a guy who can shoot ice, and we're talking about a girl whose astral body, kind of, astral projection type physical form is wacky. And as I say that, I'm saying it's very realistic, because these characters are realistic and their true feelings and true to form, that how I would expect siblings to react in this circumstances, in this world. And I think that for me is, again, it's kind of neat when I get that realism within the craziness. And talk about just one of my favorite endings to any of these new 52 issues leading into the next one. Just they're sitting there, they got the Flash down, and like, yeah, and all of a sudden Grodd comes in. And I just love the fact how this issue ended, went right into 13, 14, and just continued on. For me, I was cheering and I was laughing, because I'm like, this has been a great, awesome episode. I'm like, it's not done yet. What's going to happen next? Oh. And it's,
You're jumping past a lot of stuff that's really good, though, because you don't want to forget, like, when you take a look at the first realization of what happened with her powers, I mean, you've got Cold holding his sister in his hands, and her being, imagine the horror of looking at your body from the outside. And really, I loved, like, we got to see, like, how much Mirror Master, because with villains, you think of them as selfish people, typically. Right? They're only out for themselves.
Right.
But you do see with this group on multiple occasions, he is concerned about his sister. That's genuine. Mirror Master was genuinely concerned with her. He knew he was in trouble being connected to the machine, realized something was going wrong, and his first instinct was to tell her, Lisa, get out of here. So it really shows us something about their character and who they are. They're villains. I'm not saying you should admire them or want to be them, but I love there's that part of you that goes, wow, villains, just like people, who are heroes, aren't cookie cutter. You can't say one blanket thing. I think this is something that Secret Six as a book did very well. It's one of the reasons why I have such a soft place in my heart for how good that series was, is because it really took our sense of what we thought villains should be and showed us that we didn't really know everything, because you've got that in-depth exploration. Here we're getting a really good in-depth exploration of this group of villains, and it's telling us something more that we didn't know. And Cold's sense of code goes even one step further. When his sister turns on him, he sides with the Flash because he owes him one for saving his sister. So he's helping the Flash out in those moments when he could be just looking out for himself, because he feels like he owes him one. And saving Dr. Elias instead of letting Elias die is something that will be his payoff for doing this. I know I'm jumping ahead to that, but you see that his motivations are, okay, I got your back until I've made things even. Once I've made things even, we're done. Because that's part of my code. Really bizarre to see it from a villain standpoint, because like usually we see that from a hero standpoint. We're like, we get it. Like, this is a good guy and this is why he sticks to his code. To see it from a villain's end is very strange and unusual, yet there's something refreshing in seeing that Cold believes, hey, I'm a snark. This is what I do. If you owe me, well, if I owe you one, you better believe I'm going to have your back. The Trickster mentions this. I know that if I do this for you, you're going to have my back later. And I can call that marker at some point in time because that's part of your reputation. That reputation's important to you. And there's something about that. Deathstroke has a code. Whether you agree with it or not, he has one as well. It's very different. I like that we've got villains that have certain codes, certain things that you can count on and believe in. I think it does just distinguish them, and I like that distinguishing. There's something that's neat about it. And to me, it makes the story interesting.
Well, and also just the neat fact of he had that code. He had that. He owed Barry one. Once he repaid it, done. And we see it by the end of the issue, he turns on Barry. He's back to because he already paid his debt. By sparing the life, that's it. We're even now. I don't have to keep being nice to you. I can go back to trying to kill you, or stop you, or do the road thing. And within one issue, you see him go through the full circle. You see him pay it full and done. Any other villain, I would say, okay, he's helping Barry to set him up and get him to drop his guard. Not with him. With Cole, that legitimately was, I am paying for what you did for me. We're now even. Done. Now it's a whole new, now the slate's clean. We're back to ground zero. We're right off where we were before. Now let's see what happens. And it's going to be kind of interesting as we get the guerrilla warfare, as we get that story with seeing the Flashes and the Rogues work together, seeing them have to fend off this outside force coming in after their city, destroying their city. Again, any other villain group, I wouldn't completely trust that they're going to not try to cut a side deal with Grodd. This group, they're not going to do that just because of the code, just because of who they are. And, it's, again, it's the definition and the peculiarities and the specific, singularities of the Rogues that you need to have. And I'm really, really enjoying this coming out.
Patty, Spivot, and Turbine. I really liked seeing those moments because, Turbine is something we saw in the Speed Force, and we got this idea that Turbine knows more than Barry does, but, his memory's kind of wonky. We're starting to see Turbine's memory come back here. And I don't think those bits with Daryl and Turbine that we see later are throwaway.
No.
I think he knows the truth of the secret of Daryl. I know who you really are. That's something where we as readers want to, what is that? And I think I'm guessing it's what we've been alluding to.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm wrong. I love that the secret's there because that's interesting to me. And, him knowing about Barry and pulling Patty into that situation where he's really putting, and I felt as readers, we all knew that this was leading to him eventually putting Patty and Daryl in a position where they know the truth about Barry.
Yeah.
How do you like that? Do you like that? Do you like that they're going to know his identity? Because that's obviously, we know that now, right? They're going to know that he's the Flash.
Yeah, eventually.
We know that from the end of where this is all going to go. So, I know we're jumping ahead, but can we talk about that?
Oh, sure.
Do you like the fact that we've now got two characters in Barry's life that are close to him? It's not Iris. It's Patty that's going to know his identity.
Well, isn't Iris also going to learn eventually? Because Iris is trapped in the Speed Force. As Iris is possibly coming out of the Speed Force, she's going to see, because it looks like everybody that's in that Speed Force is all coming out at the same place.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like they're all three of them are going to learn, if not already have.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. How do you like that? I liked Wally had an open identity with the public in general. I don't necessarily want to see Barry go that route. If it did, I wouldn't have an issue with it because there's something about the whole Flash world that works. Except to me, you've got to kind of have a secret identity because of the whole rogue. Like this group of rogues, I would not want to know my secret identity.
No.
By any stretch. So that doesn't work for me. But I don't have a problem at all with Daryl knowing. I think he can be trusted for the reasons we've alluded to. I also think Patty can be trusted to have his back. Iris, it's interesting. We don't know enough about Iris to see how she's going to react to this. Although I think what we've learned about her shows she's a good enough person. But you're right. There are people now outside of that because Iris isn't alone.
Right.
How many of them do we want to know about Barry? If you're right. I guess I wasn't considering Iris and her crew. If I was considering for sure that Daryl and Patty and Turbine obviously know his identity. I still think there's a question mark to Iris and her crew. I still think it's possible that Daryl, Patty, and Turbine could cover up Barry's identity, so Iris and her crew don't find out. I guess Iris alone I wouldn't have an issue with. I don't want her crew finding out at the same time.
Yeah, well, part of the thing is with they're seeing this because of the physical, face and the mask breaking off. So if the other people see his face, they're not going to know. But again, yeah, it's
Iris would.
Yeah,
Iris knows who Barry Allen is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Iris would know, but the others wouldn't.
But wouldn't she at that moment go, "Oh my God, it's Barry Allen"?
True.
I mean, would she have enough wherewithal? And I mean, considering those people, once they've seen his face, isn't Barry Allen a public enough persona, being what he does in their city, that they would be able to quickly find out who he is? I guess I'm not thinking. I guess my thinking is, and I'm not saying you're wrong on this, because when you were saying that, I'm like, boy, I kind of see Jim's point that could happen. So I want to be clear on that. I'm still not convinced that Iris and her crew are going to find out at the same time. But yet, I totally see why you're saying that. So I don't know that you're wrong. I'm thinking they're painting themselves, if they do that, they're painting themselves into an interesting corner. It could be a good story to do it. I'm not against them if they do it. I'm not convinced they're going to do that, though. I'm convinced Patty and Daryl are going to know, and Turbine, obviously.
Well, you know what? Daryl's not with them. Right now, it's just Patty, Solivar, and Turbine. Daryl didn't come through with them. So it's only going to be Patty who knows. So this world, it looks like, I don't think Iris is, and again, I'm going to kind of change my thought that maybe they're not going to pop out at the same time. That it's only going to be Patty initially who knows. Patty's going to learn the truth instead of Iris. And where's this going to go? It's kind of like that whole, when you think about Superman, with the Lana Lang knowing, as well as Lois Lane later on learning. So this is Patty is his version, is his Lana. This is his initial girl who first finds out about him, who first is his trusted confidant / girlfriend / friend / unknown, variation and factor in the crazy universe that is the Flash. So I'm okay with this, and I like this. I think we're going to get great stories out of Patty, and the Patty-Barry relationship is really just beginning. Yeah, Iris is eventually going to be in there, and I do want to see Iris and Barry together, and I do want to see that whole thing play out, and just the future coming down of the West family. I want to see Wally in the universe. I want to see all this kind of stuff that it's comfortable within the Flash universe, but I like Patty around. I'm glad, originally, she kind of had a bullseye on her chest because, you're like, don't wear red, Patty. Don't wear a red shirt, We don't want to lose you yet. But it's now, there's a comfort with her. I'm thinking she's got a chance of surviving here.
I love the analogy of Lana Lang, because one of the things that works about Patty, and where the analogy works, is Lana is endearing. You like Lana. And especially when she's written very well, you like Lana Lang. Patty, I like. I really like her. I'm an Iris fan because I'm an old time. I actually, it's funny. I have a deeper connection to Iris, as I've mentioned on the show previously, because she came back through time and became like this confidant, mentor, keeper of secrets for Wally. And so I have much more storytelling experience actually with Iris than even Barry. So I have a very soft place in my heart for her. Again, a testament to the creative team. Really done a great job of making me love Patty. And it's an interesting dynamic. And I really love that because it's what worked for Superman for me as well. I want to see the logical progression of Barry to Iris. I'm not in a rush.
Yeah.
Because it's going really well.
And as a general concept, I do like it when a hero has that confidant that they tell their secret to. And I like the fact that it's just something quick to throw away. There's a reason why this person is that confidant, why this person is that, why they need to have that person that they can talk to. They need to have that person who knows the truth, whether they can help give them a cover story or whether they can help them through a particularly difficult situation. Bruce has his Alfred. Clark some of the great stories of him talking to his mom and Pa Kent, or then him talking to Lois about stuff. There was this great human side. Current universe, we got Buddy and his family. That's just a great family dynamic of it. But everybody knows Buddy's secret identity, but it's still that same type of feel where you should be able to trust your family. You should be able to trust the people you are closest with, with this big secret. One, it's something difficult. Every day you're dealing with these huge monumental decisions that you have to make that have these massive repercussions. Well, you need to have that person, that confidant that you can talk to and, just kind of vent with, or have them, go over stuff with, or you need that human connection so you don't completely lose it. And I like seeing, these characters develop these type of relationships and these type of friendships.
Yeah, that's where Patty works. And it's real world, because you would hit a point where, first of all, you'd need to let somebody know. So you could, like you said, talk to them, but also you need that somebody to cover for you. I always loved the concept that when Lois knew, she would cover for Clark when Clark couldn't. You know what I mean? Clark was, and actually in many ways, Clark was able to operate faster because Lois could cover for him before he needed to. There was something about that I liked, that relationship, and it is something I would love to eventually see again in Superman storytelling. I know, I'm guessing they're going to be gun shy in the whole Superman being married to Lois thing again, because somehow they felt like they were painted into a corner with that. I disagree immensely. I'm not against them not being married now. I'd love to see it again down the road, because I don't think it was a weakness. I thought it was something that was the right writers knew how to utilize it and make it super cool. I think Death of Superman meant so much more because the two of them were married.
Yeah.
It was really great, and I don't think you lose anything from the two characters because of it. I don't think Superman dating makes him any more relevant of a character than Superman married, because I think you can have the same kind of storytelling issues with a guy that's married. Speaking as a guy that's married. But I do like the storytelling that's going on now a great deal. I love this with Barry for the same exact reasons. I do want to see Barry eventually married to Iris. I'm really enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things where I don't need it this year. I don't need it next year. I'd like to see a couple years down the road, when it naturally progresses to that way. And that's a testament to the storytelling.
Natural progression is something you really need, because right now he and Patty have something special, and I don't want to see that to get pushed aside.
Amen.
Quickly. It needs to play out, but needs to have its full life, its beginning, middle, and ending, before he can move on. And you can't see him jump from one relationship to the next. There's got to be some time. There's got to be that downtime. There's got to be that, his dealing with the ending of the relationship and the testing the waters for something new. So we're looking at easily, I'd say, 5 years before we get these two together, just because this story has to run its full course. These two, especially once she figures out that it is him, once she knows that he is the Flash, that starts the whole thing. Everything changes all over again, and the past, there's going to be rehab. They're going to have conversations all over again, and that's kind of a neat thing of a relationship, of a growth, and of a character development.
Ditto. I 100% agree. I want to see the Patty story have a very natural progression. I'm in no rush to see that relationship end. I want to see it followed through because I like her. And I think in order to really care about whatever's going to happen with Barry and Iris, you got to let this go where it goes. And it's going to be interesting. Whether, I have no idea how it's going to lead to where it is or how Patty's going to feel about him being the Flash, because how is she going to feel about that? What is that going to do to their relationship? Because that's a secret now he's been keeping from her, which... is that going to make her question their relationship? Because that's a part of it we don't usually consider. But she's going to have a reaction to all of this. And what is it going to be? I don't know that that's a foregone conclusion.
Oh God, no! I think I think she's gonna be a little bit miffed.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way. I've learned from personal experiences. The great way to anger a female is you don't tell her the complete story.
Right.
You just tell her a little bit, And once she figures out the rest, ooh, doggy, she gets mad.
And it's a uniquely guy thing, isn't it? We're horrid at this. Like we never learn. It's a really horrible thing about us. It's admittedly, it's a guy thing. We're terrible with this. And it's why women want to smack us in the head all the time, and they're right.
Want to,
Yeah.
I've had things thrown at me because of it.
Right. With Captain Cold and the Flash in the original battle with the Rogues, I want to talk a little bit about, because the visual styling of how that all played out and the reasons why certain things happened. Like when the glider is like, his sister is like wrapping them up in those tendrils, and you see Cold kick the Flash away. I love that for us it looked as odd as it looked to Barry, but Cold's reasoning, saying, you need to be away from me, buddy, because you know what Cold does to you. And it makes sense. They're working together right now. Cold's showing that he's a strategist. This is why he was the leader of the Rogues. He's thinking about the power set of the person he's working with and realizing, if he's too close to me, this is not somebody who's a rookie, Captain Cold. This is a guy who knows team dynamics more than Barry does even. Yeah, Barry's on the Justice League, but it's not the same as working together constantly the way the Rogues do. And I love that there's that distinction there. Like, Barry's not as comfortable with thinking of the right way to work with Cold as Cold is working with Barry. Now, I do think that Barry's Justice League skills, if he thinks of himself as a true partner of Cold, would come into play, and you'd see a much more cohesive team dynamic from him as well. Cold's clearly saying, in this moment, I need to work with this guy. I know how to do this. I'm going to use the same skill set I use with the Rogues here. I loved how that played out.
Oh, God, yeah.
The mirror world was, to me, visually stunning. And I loved that we have this, the way with him being trapped in the mirrors, which is not something I'm used to. I'm used to the Mirror Master being able to pop in and out of them, no problem at all. We've got a Mirror Master now who, because of this, is trapped, actually physically trapped permanently into the world because of what's, at least permanently for now. It somehow gives him more power being able to use these shards and things. Go ahead. I'm sorry, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just, we know he's going to eventually get out. And we know that you see these, eventually I'm thinking they're all going to kind of shift back to where they were somehow. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to play out, whether it's going to be, I'm thinking it's going to be a Flash save where this is going to level the field with the Rogues and the Flash. Right now, the Flash is going to owe them in their minds because they're helping him out with the invasion. Well, in my head, I was immediately thinking Barry's going to figure out the way, or through Barry's resources, or Barry's going to talk to that doctor, and they're going to work it out where we're going to get the Rogues able to, be themselves, get rid of the heightened powers. But the question is, which ones are going to want to get rid of the powers?
I was just thinking the same thing. And here's the question: will Mirror Master, for as trapped as Mirror Master is, would he want to give up the power, or would he rather find a way to get out on his own and still maintain the power? Because he seems to really enjoy the amount of power he possesses in that world. Would he give up that world now? I don't know. So I don't know that any of them would, except maybe Cold's sister. But would she give up the power and then all of a sudden leave herself vulnerable? I've got a lot of question on whether anybody would really give up their power in this group. I think their motivations for holding on to the power would be uniquely different. I think some of them clearly won the lottery on this one. Like Captain Cold, I don't know that he'd give up his power because why bother using the guns when you can generate this yourself? And Weather Wizard, I just don't see some of those guys, Heat Wave, I don't see those guys giving up the power. I really don't. Mirror Master, you could make an argument that he would have a motivation to give up the power, except when you see him when they're all in there, would he give that up? Or would he want to keep the power but find a way to be able to release himself from there? I don't know that answer is as cut and dry.
Oh, God, no. And for me, I can come up with reasons for all of them wanting to give up the power. Cold can't grab a beer anymore. He has difficulty coming in contact with just everyday reactions and everyday, life. It's, he has those issues right there. Same thing with Heat Wave. He's got, constant burning, constant fire going. Yeah, he's a pyromaniac. Yeah, he likes watching things burn. But it gets to that point where he wants to turn it off. If he wants to pick up a newspaper and read the newspaper, he can't do that anymore. Mirror Master we see is trapped. Glider is, non-corporeal. So each one of them have a reason to get rid of. But
there's also positives.
Yeah.
You got and so for every negative you're throwing out there, there's an intense amount of positive for both of them and what they've gained from it. I am not disputing anything you just said. I think you're 100% correct. Considering their line of work and also their trust issues, would you want to depower yourself so now the Flash has an easier time with you? That's the big question on the table. Will you do that in order to be able to grab a beer?
Yeah.
I don't know. Cold, think about his code. I'm more powerful now. It's all about the score. A guy who's willing to give up drugs to avoid losing my code, would I be willing to give up holding a beer in order to be able to keep these powers so I'm more effective in my code? I don't know. I'm more useful to the family like this. Would I give that up? I don't know. So I don't think anything I just said discounts what you're saying. It is going to be, if the opportunity presents themselves for them to give up their powers, I would be interested to see how it goes. Because I don't know that that's as cut and dry and clear. I don't think I've presented an argument here to show that they would keep them. I don't think you've presented an argument that shows they would give them up. I could see it very easily going either way. For a lot of the reasons we both stated, I would be very interested to see how that goes.
Oh, amen. And I completely agree with you. There is there is no cut and dry what's going to happen. And I think if this ever plays out, I don't think we'll see all of them give up the powers. I think some of them will hold on to it, and I think some of them will say, yes, I want out. I am leaning towards Mirror Master wanting to come out because he's stuck in that world. Yeah, he's got the more power, and yeah, he does enjoy that. You can see he's enjoying it, but there is something about the fact that he can't, he's part of the team, and he's able to transport, and he's able to do all of that with the power set, but he also does have limitations on he's never going to be able to have a big screen TV or the diamonds or the money or just to feel and just, have that, the power that comes with the score, the power that comes with the steel. And I'm not talking physical meta power. I mean the power of money, the power of wealth, the power of, what they're getting from their jobs. I think for him, he's missing out on that too much. I think he will want that to come back.
Yeah. As we're looking out, and I can see that point too, I guess the question is, what is currently happening to them at the time that question presents itself, I think will have a great influence on their decision. If they're in the middle of a major crisis as rogues, where they could be taken down by some form of enemy or the Flash or whatever, I think that will lean them one way versus if they're in the middle of peacetime.
Yeah.
So I do think circumstances are going to make a huge decision if that opportunity presents itself. I don't know that we're going to see that opportunity present itself anytime soon, because I think way too much is going on right now for any of them to have an opportunity to experiment with getting themselves back to normal on any level.
Oh, yeah. This is another one of those down the road, on the line, eventually someday down the road, we'll maybe see this. Maybe.
Issue 13, that opening 10 years ago. And I'm really liking seeing, I think in my mind, we've been exploring a lot of this 5-year time frame in the DC universe. I like seeing these things 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. These things, I want to know a little bit more, what was Barry's childhood like? This is drastically important, though, because it, again, I think hints at a lot of what we've been discussing. Whether it turns out to be true or not, fine with me. But it also shows us a lot of the formative years of why Barry thinks the way he does about the city and how the city is home. Because that's what Daryl thinks. Daryl says, I go out there and risk my life every day because I feel like the home isn't just contained within these 4 walls. The home extends to the city. The city is our home. These people are our family. I think that, to me, is something that I really like about The Flash. You and I both grew up in a great city. I mean, we grew up in Euclid. I think a lot of the friends that we have are people, whether they're the closest friends or people that are more casual friends. We have been lucky enough to have surrounded ourselves by really cool people that we grew up with in a place that felt like a neighborhood and felt like a home. And I connect with that in The Flash. with that concept that what's beyond your home is Central City. You know, I mean, there's a reason why I don't live very far from where I grew up, because there's something about, you know, being in this area. I've still got friends that are close by. Would I consider moving out of state? It would have to be a really good job offer, you know, where it was like, you can't possibly pass this up in order to make me move from where I live right now, because I genuinely like the people, even if I don't see them all the time. It's the fact that we have the convenience of being able to get together very quickly when we're able to, even if we only see each other once a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I connect with this concept that Barry has of home that Daryl's presenting to him. I love that it's something that the guy who's raising him, the stepdad that's, you know, raising him, the guy who's foster parented him, however you want to look at him. I know it's that we're saying that he could potentially be his real dad. At the very least, he is a great foster dad for what he's doing with Barry here. And I could see why this guy would be a very positive influence. I would be extremely sorely disappointed if they now take this guy and make him a bad guy. Because I'm with you. There's no way it can go down that route, right?
No way. There's only the only thing, quote unquote, bad you're going to get is I'm firmly convinced that he is Barry's biological father. Mm-hmm. That the mom and him had a extramarital affair. So I think that's the only level of bad we're going to see from this guy. And if they do anything beyond that, I'd be shocked and just it would be one of those. I'd be stymied. My jaw would hit the ground. I'd be like, huh,
dude.
You know?
Dude, issue 13, 2 minutes ago downtown. I'm sorry, Nora. I'm sorry I couldn't keep Barry safe. Look what's on his desk. Blood analysis, Barry Allen. Protected him as best I could, but the world's a much different place. Dude, isn't that like basically hammering us in the head with what we've been saying?
Probably.
That's right on his desk. Why would he have that?
If he didn't, yeah.
I mean, if there's...
I didn't even notice that until just now, I'll be honest. I saw the picture of the mom, and that's what I focused on when I saw it. I didn't look right above it.
I didn't... Wait, wow. Dude, I'm telling you, I just caught this right now. So I'm not saying this is something that I'm throwing out there that, like, I've known all along. I just literally was looking at this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been right there all along. If they're swerving us, they're doing a brilliant job. Because they've really got me like a fish on a hook, convinced that this might be his real dad.
Well, and I like you know, I look at stuff like the nose, and you talk about the eyebrows. I think the eyebrows, he and Barry have very similar eyebrows and nose. So it's, again, I keep looking at those two. I hold pictures of those two together, and I'm like, that looks like a father-son to me.
Yeah, and I think that's deliberate too. King Grodd. This whole sequence of events to me is just, wow, do I love this. I love that the rogues don't immediately, they're like, oh, one of your friends, huh, Flash? Well, we got no reason to stay here. Let's go, guys. It makes sense that they would do that. That's no honor among thieves and all that kind of stuff, in the sense that they're going to stick with each other. Let's all get out together, because Cold's trying to bring them back together. He's convinced, like, at this point, I've already done what I said I was going to do. I've kind of evened things up. But the enemy, so they're going to let him rip Flash apart because, hey, he's the enemy of our enemy, he's our friend. Until Grodd's crew is like, hey, wait a minute. We aren't letting them escape. So now Cold's saying it again. The enemy of our enemy is our friend, right? Guess it's time to team up with the Flash. So then they turn tables, and it was great seeing the way this fight played out. I like the fact that they've somehow, the gorillas, have been able to tap into the Speed Force, and they're like Flash Light, meaning that it's now made things very hard for Barry, because they were already super strong. He didn't need them to have any more powers to be a threat with the sheer overwhelming numbers. But now that there is this kind of Grodd's been able to tap them all into the Speed Force because of his understanding of what that was and his belief that he was ultimately the one destined to have the powers that Barry has, even though he's misguided on this, because I'm totally convinced it was supposed to be Barry. I love the way that's playing out because it adds this sense of danger. The more danger that you've got, the more you get behind the hero wondering, how is he going to get out of this? I like situations where, especially when you got a guy with super speed, that a split second can be the difference between life and death, winning and losing, surviving and not surviving. It's not about beating and taking down all the gorillas. It's about him getting to Grodd and being able to take Grodd down before he can be overwhelmed by the gorillas. Grodd in and of himself is an impressive beast to be fighting against. So with having the trouble of overwhelming odds here and being able to take maybe just one of these guys down is really difficult for him, the concept of him fighting Grodd is also a huge problem. This sense of danger in there is exactly what I've always loved about the Flash. You got to ask yourself, what would keep somebody going on? Well, it's the sense of, this is my home. Central City is my family. I was raised this way. This is who I am. You know, the man I look up to, Daryl, you know, who took me in and has raised me, whether he's Barry's official dad or not, he's been a dad to Barry. You know, I mean, and I'm a firm, being somebody who's adopted, I'm a firm believer that blood doesn't make you a good parent. It's nurture. It really is nurture. You have great parents who are your real parents. You know what I mean? My parents are both people who've adopted me. I think they're just as good of parents as blood parents, because I think we've both seen situations where there's been parents who are, you know, the blood parents. You know, they actually have the DNA, and they don't do the same job that we've been lucky to have great parents who have. So we've got Barry here, who's been very lucky in his life that he had a great mom. It looks like his dad, who, whether he is the real dad or not, was a good dad to Barry, because Barry's got these great memories with him. And he's had Daryl, who our question mark is on, who's been a great parent. So Barry's had this nurturing environment. The loyalty that we see from Barry, I think, is true. And I would like to think that because of the way I was raised, in this kind of environment, I would do this. I would like to think that. And that's one of the great things about Barry. There's that party that wants to go, you know what? Life's been pretty good. I'm lucky where I live. I care about the people here. I don't see myself running away, you know? I'd like to think I would do that. You don't know until you're in the situation. And I don't think Barry knew until he was in the situation. I like that. There's something about Barry. It feels like, you know, I'd like to think I could beat Barry. I'd like to think it. You know, I don't know how true it is. But that's something hopeful about this book, and I like that. I like walking out after reading this feeling like, geez, I hope I could be him, because I like him.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I think I could be the Flash, but if it starts raining gorillas, I'm running. I don't think...
Well, he does too.
No, I mean, I'd be running. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm thinking Coast City would be pretty good. I'm going to be the new protector of Coast City. Let them have Central City. Let me call the JLA and get them in here. They'll deal with this problem. I'll be the hero over here.
Except Barry knows the truth that Grodd's... See, here's the issue. You're forgetting who's Grodd after. Coast City's not going to matter. Grodd will keep following. In Barry's mind, Grodd's still after him. But also, do you think Grodd would stop at Central City? No. Grodd's going to keep going. He wants world domination. And Barry knows that. So I actually think Barry has a lot of the fears we're talking about, because he doesn't stay there and take down every single gorilla. He's thinking through the fact, they're going to keep shooting out these pods. So he does run, just the way you're saying, because he just knows there's no way that's going to work, staying there. So he makes the logical decision to run away, and he has to weigh out, you know, do I run to a coast city, or do I go after this guy? Do that. Now, admittedly, I'm more with you, where there'd be that part of myself that I think I would want to run to Coast City too. But I'd like to think there's a part of me that would logically look at this and go, wait a minute. If I run to Coast City, they're going to come there. So if I can find a way to stop this, I would. Maybe I would call in for backup, except that's addressed in this. Why they can't. Barry can't do what you're saying because of what's being done. Remember, you're forgetting the illusion that they've crafted. And I don't know that Barry would make it out of the city if he could. So remember, there's no way, like, Barry can't call the Justice League in because that's already being taken care of. They crafted that into the storytelling that there's a big illusion being put on here, and there's no way communication's getting out of this place. But, I mean, seriously, what would you do in that situation?
First thing actually probably would be calling for backup. Now, he's got the rogue. Once seeing the rogues were fighting alongside me, I'd be like, okay. But there would definitely, when you get invasions of this level, my first thought would be, you know, can I get anybody else in here to help lighten the load? Can I get anybody else to take care of this? Because I would be thinking, I got to take down Grodd. You cut off the head of the serpent, the body dies. So I would be thinking, okay, I got to find Grodd. I got to take down Grodd. So there definitely would be a lot of stick and move. There would be some running. There would be what appears to be a retreat. But in reality, it would be a repositioning of myself, going after the more pressing target and hoping that I can bring in somebody else to deal with the gorillas, deal with the minions. And I do really enjoy the fact that Grodd is able to address the fact that by setting up this illusion that this nuclear ordinance went off, that you can't come into the city, that you have to stay out, and that, I love him doing that mass illusion to he's thinking of this world has these champions, this world has these heroes, this world has a military. We have to keep them out for now until I can get the Flash, until I can get all of his power, and I will be supreme. I love seeing Grodd isn't just this big, bulky, massive, powerful gorilla. There is an intelligence, there is some strategery going on there, and I enjoy that, and I enjoy his vicious and savage nature. And trickster. Talk about a poor choice of words. I know this city like the back of my hand. Really? Rip?
I'm not putting my hand up with anybody.
Oh, God, no.
Like, when I don't know what they're going to do. Like, I would stay as far away as possible unless there was a reason. That's where you do a salute, you do a bow, everything but touch. Because, there's... keep your hands and feet away from Grodd's mouth. Would you, like seeing that big hulking beast of gorilla, put your hands anywhere near him?
Oh, God, no. I would be doing what the other... If I was a legitimate, real person living in Central City, I would be hiding right now. I would, maybe if there was people around me, I'd, funnel them to the basement, and maybe I'd hold off as best I could if the gorillas came attacking me, but... These are gorillas, man. These are massively powerful creatures. And once you get them talking, that adds to a whole new level of, oh my God. I remember recently I was at the zoo, and you see these things in the cage, and then they have these, the handprints and the imaging of just the size of them, and you put your hand in their paw print, and you're just like, wow, that's like 2-3 times the size of my hand. These things are just massively powerful. So I would be hiding if I was a regular person. Or you see the people fleeing, ducking into the alleyways, trying to figure out, hey, I got to get out of here. I would be one of those people. Just, hide, run. Maybe I would help if I could help somebody, hide as well. I would do that, But there would definitely be a lot of, oh crud, bob and weave. This is I need a superhero help.
And the trick is, considering what you've got and the sheer number of them, and the fact that there's the ability to read minds, how do you hide? Where do you hide? You're going to eventually, I would imagine that they can sniff you out too. How safe are you?
Yeah, what we know about them and what the everyday person would know about them are two different things. So I would be hiding underneath my bed thinking, they can't see me, they won't find me. And sure enough, they rip the bed up and grab me and drag me down to the arena to be used as energy for the mind device. So yeah, I think my experience with the gorillas in Central City, I would have less than stellar results.
That's one of the funny parts of the whole... Well, I wonder if as a comic book reader, though, that wouldn't play into your favor. You'd be kind of like, well, I remember in comics reading about Grodd, maybe I should do this, or... would you put would you put aluminum foil on your head? The age-old thing, maybe you can't read my mind if I do that? I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be... Again, and it's... I'm looking at the one page right now. It's the 2-page spread that shows the Rogues fighting, shows the Flash fighting. And there's one scene here, one of the panels that... it's kind of a cool thing when one of the gorillas is attacking Captain Cold, you see his paw freezing up and his arm freezing just because he comes in contact with him. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that they still have that going on, that they still, you have that little bit of, again, it's the attention to detail and the attention of who they are.
And that's the part where I go back to, again, would Cold give that up?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
There's a negative, but it's also, what a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And in his line of work, that would be a major feather. So I don't know. I actually liked when Glider was saying to Flash, I got to say, we work well together. If you ever decide to turn bad, you got a place with us. I could see that happening. Could you imagine if he did? They would accept him, right?
You know what? If he ever went full-on rogue, I think they would. I think they would let him come in, but he would have to prove that he's not setting them up. He would have to prove that I've definitely had a change of heart. Just because yeah, these guys have a code, and I think they would accept him in, but he would have to prove he is really a rogue.
Oh, but yeah, they'd probably put him through tests and things like
Yeah.
that. But I mean, I think they would trust that he would stick to their code. Or I mean, Cold, I guess, would, because that would be his whole thing. Hey, I got the Flash with me now, and this is a guy who actually would genuinely stick to my code.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's. But again, if you have a former hero who turns rogue, can you really trust him? It's like the crooked cop thing, where if you identify a crooked cop, how much can you trust them? Because they've taken the code of that they will uphold and defend the law. Well, now they're bending the rules. Now they're
Depends
kind of
on why.
tweaking it.
Depends
What?
on why.
Yeah.
Whatever Barry's reasons were for turning rogue, I think would be what would ultimately decide that. I guess.
Yeah. See, I don't know. It's because like with me, when I see any law enforcement who's like kind of bending the rules or just it's just a little overtime, they're getting a little bit of extra overtime. What's the harm in that? Well, you know what? You kind of need these people who are your law enforcement agents to be beyond that temptation. Because what happens if they bend the rule here? What happens if they bend the rule there? What's going to happen next? Are we going to get this, just this travesty of justice happening from this person? And did we have these signs all along? When you get a hero that goes rogue, when you get a hero who kind of dances or crosses the line, it's part of the things that I like about Batman and his code, the no-kill code. It's you can't cross that line. You can't uncross it. Even a psychopath like the Joker, you can't kill him. You can't cross the line. Same thing would go with the Flash and the Rogues. If Barry ever crossed over, you could never truly trust that he would honor the code. So I'm gonna kind of flip flop on my previous statement. I don't know if I was a rogue. If the Flash went rogue, I don't know if you could convince me 100% that I could trust him.
I don't know. I'm going to disagree a little bit with you on that one. I think circumstance would be the thing where I could see a Captain Cold going, it's about time you saw things our way, depending on the reasoning why he did it. It would have to be the reasons why.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me. Part of me, I don't think I could. If I was a rogue, I don't know if I could completely trust the Flash or any hero who crosses the line. Now, a rogue who goes hero, who comes back to rogue, I probably would be a little bit more trusting of them just because they were at one time one of us.
Like Piper.
Like Piper. I would trust Piper more than I would trust Flash.
And that I actually do agree with. I would think he would be an easier one to trust because he was one, it's like finally you've come back to the fold, that type of thing, so I get that. Interesting with... as we go into issue 14, we've got, Barry had this confrontation with Grodd. We get introduced to a character who's very near and dear to me, Solivar.
Yeah.
I remember Solivar as a kid. Actually, it was in a Batman story first. It was a Gorilla City storyline that was on a book and record set with Batman that had a full-blown, oversized, record album-sized comic book with it. And one story was heavily involved with Gorilla City. And Batman had to go up against Grodd, but, Solivar was in the story as well. And Solivar was always Barry Allen's confidant in Gorilla City. He was the good guy. He was the logical one. To see Solivar brought in this way where he was this enlightened one who evolved early and saw the future and saw what was going to happen to Barry and how all these events were going to play out and needed to show up here. That kind of time travel, and we're seeing it from the past coming to the present, is something that I've always enjoyed in The Flash. The idea that the Speed Force and all of this leads to the ability to be able to go from one time to the other and for different times to be able to influence the present day. And this, I was geeking out at the realization that this guy's name was Solivar. I'm like, oh, because I kept thinking a lot of times one of these white gorillas would be eventually revealed to be Solivar. Not, and I thought they were going that route with it instead of really realizing that, no, Solivar, like Grodd, is one of these big, powerful, darker gorillas. And I like that Solivar, it's back to Solivar's roots. I like the little twist on it. I love seeing, the two of them kind of how it all ends up in the storyline with Solivar. It makes sense for the noble character that he is. I will be sorely disappointed if this means the death of Solivar. I'm hoping that the Speed Force, being a part of all this, heals Solivar.
Yeah, and also just, hopefully just because Solivar's tough, he's able to survive it. And I like the fact that, this this bad memory, this childhood memory that Barry has with the gorillas on the safari and attacking, that it was Sullivar who was doing that. I loved seeing that. I love the fact that, okay, this whole bad memory, this whole introduction that we had a couple issues ago that Barry has with the gorillas, and he has this horrible, horrific, time in his life. Hey, guess what? That's this guy, and that's why I don't want to see him die. Just because I want to see what happens beyond this. I want to see out of that horrific past this sacrifice and then this friendship develop. Unfortunately, I'm thinking that Sullivar isn't long for this world. I'm thinking we're going to see an ending of him here because the way he just is, he's seen the past, present, and the future. He knows how he's supposed to die, and he knows it's going to happen. Now, granted, that we are dealing with the Flash. We are dealing with somebody who can do the impossible just because he is that cool. I can see the Flash pulling a Flash miracle, and I wouldn't have an issue with him doing that to save this guy because he is a great, there is a really cool character coming out of this. But initially, right now, you don't see how it's going to happen. And again, that's kind of a cool part of a comic.
Yeah, I do too. I actually like that there's that gray area in that question. I just love that it's Sullivar that's taking on this big role, and I love that we've seen him before. I like that this book's not afraid to do that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here's something I always do wonder about with Grodd. Now, we've seen it in the past with him with the mental powers and mind control and stuff like that. Does this Grodd have that level of mental powers? Or is it more of just the kind of the open-ended, or is it, they need the augmentation? Because you see him, the white gorilla using the people, using the machinery, using the equipment to enhance the mental powers. Does Grodd not have that level? Is this more of a physical, powerful Grodd as opposed to the telepathy, the mind control, and whatnot?
I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm guessing that it depends on what his goals are and how much strain he wants to put on himself mentally. I think this is a guy, when he goes into battle like we're seeing here leading in there, I wonder if, because the guy who's clearly doing all that mental stuff clearly has to be stationary and pulling, the amount of strain you see from him is really evident. Do I think Grodd could probably do that even better than him? Maybe. I don't know that that's real clear. That you're asking, I think, a great question. I don't think we know the answer to that, so I'm speculating. I should clarify that before we go any further. A part of me, when I was looking at that, was thinking to myself, Grodd could probably do that even better, but Grodd doesn't want to be hooked up to the machine because Grodd wants to be at the front and center, being able to hatch whatever plan that he's doing. So plugging this guy into there is a better solution for Grodd. Let's feed him. Now, I do think feeding this guy the mines, the white gorilla, makes him more powerful than Grodd could ever hope to be. I do think that machine is augmenting him in a way where it is doing more than Grodd would do himself on his own. So I do think that answer, in my mind, is apparent. And again, that's me speculating. I don't think we have answers to the questions that you're asking yet. I guess my speculation is I think Grodd has those type of powers. I don't know that it's on the extreme level that we've seen in the past with him, but I do think that, he's definitely, he was always introduced to me as Grodd the super gorilla, and I definitely think he's that. I think we're seeing, just an immense amount of power out of him that is, it's more than just physical. I do think there's a mental portion to it. But I think the mental portion requires stationary concentration to accomplish itself. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
This is me speculating too, so I don't know. Do you see it differently? I don't know. And if you do, please say. I'm throwing it out there. I don't know.
See, it's the thing. Part of me thinks, we're only getting a physical, powerful Grodd, that he doesn't have those mental powers, that it is the elders, it is who have that ability, who have that, pile. And that's why there's just the one, it's the white gorilla, he's the last of them. He is, they've all the other ones have died off, so that's why it's him doing it. If he had the other council with him, if he had the other gorillas who could help him, then they would be able to do it. I don't think Grodd has that mental power. That's why. But then again, I'm sitting there. I'm like, does he? And I'm not sure because I've read I've read stories where he had the power. So I'm trying to figure that out. Part of me though thinks we just have a physical, which powerful enough as is, as well as an augmented by the Speed Force gorilla. But I think that's, I don't know. It's weird.
I don't think it's as simple as just the Speed Force, though, because they were already something special when Barry met them. I think the Speed Force plays a role in it, I do think we're going to see a continued evolution of the gorillas. So I don't think we know their whole story yet. So I think like everything you're saying, I'm like, I kind of get what Jim's saying. It could be that way. I do think I think the gorillas we're seeing now are going to continue to be evolving, because I think this idea of evolution is going to be something we see more and more of with this group and their path. I don't think we know Grodd's whole story yet. I don't think Grodd knows Grodd's whole story yet. I think that's part of the thing with this being such a young Grodd and a young universe. I don't think Grodd knows that yet. I'm very, very curious to see what happens with him and Solivar. And because traditionally in the comics, Solivar's wound up being the leader of the gorillas. Grodd's always tried to wrest control from him. And when Grodd's done that, that's when Grodd unleashes these attacks, because the gorillas end up following Grodd versus Solivar, because of the way that Grodd's been able to pull things off. Usually it was his mental powers that were influencing things as well. So I'm going to be curious to see how much of that plays into this. How much the gorillas are going to follow Solivar if Solivar survives all this. Will they naturally gravitate to him or not? What will it take? I'd kind of like to see Solivar wrest control from Grodd, because I'd like this idea of this gorilla society that Barry can use as confidants and friends, and there being a faction that maybe still follows Grodd, and that kind of turmoil being a tentative piece that Solivar needs to keep. That's interesting stuff from past comic book lore that could be brought into today in a new way and make it. And I don't know if they're going to go that route. I really don't. This is just me kind of throwing out speculation on where I'd like to see it go, because I always thought that stuff was really, really interesting in the Flash world. And if they don't go that way, what we're getting here right now is incredibly pleasing for me. So I don't really care if they don't go that route. But it was something from the past that I'm like, they could implement that today if they chose to in an interesting way. I think one of the things that I like about this creative team is they've set up situations where there's not a clean-cut end game. We can, as fans, speculate about a lot of different possibilities, get really geeky about it all, and be surprised. I would be surprised any way it goes, even with what I laid out and what I'm speculating. If it goes that way, I'm going to be surprised it went that way, because of the amount of open possibility that's present here that I find really, really enjoyable.
Agree.
We get to see, right, as you said, the Mastodon chasing Iris and crew.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I'm kind of convinced they're not coming out yet, because I think we've got more.
Yeah, I think, we're not completely done with them yet. And it's funny, I look at those panels again. I look at those pages again, and I see them scrambling. I see them running. I'm like, really? Yeah, originally I was thinking that everything was going to come to head at that one point in time, but I don't know. I'm reading it differently now than I did when I read it in the past. And I'll read these issues again, and I'll probably maybe see something a little bit different. But I definitely only see Patty learning the truth. And I think that, again, it's going to be an interesting way things are going to break down. And I don't know. When Barry eventually makes his appearance, his return, and they say, here's Barry Allen, and they come up with a reasoning on how he survived, well, I think that's when we're going to see the truth about his lineage. I think that's when Daryl's going to make a revelation to him.
Is he, though? And let me explain why. I don't think this is something that Daryl's just discovered. I think Daryl's known that. Yeah. I think he pulled that out reminiscing about the death of his son. I don't know that he's going to tell him. And the reason why is I think telling him right away, what is that going to do to Barry? I don't know that he would do it. And I do see the possibility of what you're saying being the case, but I think a parent would constantly wrestle with, gosh, he's been fighting for so long, believing in this guy's innocence. What happens when I tell him this?
And I agree with you. I can see him thinking that. And I think that's probably why he's held the truth from him. Mm-hmm. But my guess is when he sees he finds out Barry is 100% alive, he's going to have that moment where my whole life I've never told you the truth. And I've always wanted to. And he's going to have that moment of revelation where I got to just say it. I got to tell you the truth. And
here's the area where I'm going to disagree with you. Would he tarnish Barry's memories of his mother to tell him the truth? You're forgetting that twist of the whole thing.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's clear from everything we've seen that he has these deep-rooted feelings for Nora. Would he change Barry's feelings about Nora? Because you got to remember, that will do that. Because you're now telling him something that he didn't know. If we're right on that, if we're wrong on this one, this totally throws the whole conversation out the window. But if we're right on this one, it now tarnishes Barry's feelings about his mom and saying that mom did this. Now, that doesn't change the fact that mom was a great mom, to Barry. It just shows that mom was human. But would he want Barry to, in any way, shape, or form, change his opinion of mom? I don't know. Because it's really clear this guy loved mom.
Oh, big time. You can see it, and I don't know, it's, as soon as you mentioned that got me thinking, because that'd be a tough one to sell, because that would really, you find out your mom, wasn't exactly, you find out everything that happened, you're like, that could definitely, tarnish memories and change some stuff, and not just, dealing with the father. So there definitely could be, I could see him keeping his mouth shut.
Yeah.
I'm now like, okay, I'm flip-flopping again, thinking, maybe he wouldn't tell. It's
in
fairness, one of the things I'm loving about this book is because I'm having these conversations, I'm having these thoughts, I'm thinking of these characters like they're real people.
And let me be fair to you, caught up in the emotion, he might just do it. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know that it's clean. I guess what I was saying is I don't know that it's clean cut that he would because of the emotion.
Exactly.
Because I think the emotion might also be the thing that would hold him back, the emotion that I mentioned. But I do see the other side of it where that could be an impulsive thing, except I see this guy being more controlled than that. Even with, because he's probably been through heavy emotional sequences with his job so much in his life that I could see him being able to hold it together. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. I like that I'm with you. I love that this book has so many possibilities. I think that's one of my strengths of this book. It doesn't have a clear set path to me. I'm convinced, 100% convinced it does for the creative team. And they're leading us on a journey of possibilities where they know the end game. We don't know the end game. I want them to keep having a nice long run in this book because I just salivated reading The Flash. I really think it's just a great, great read right now. It's fun, it's unique, it's different. It's a lot of the new 52 titles we're saying this about. And at its core, it's great Flash, which is really important to the book.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you don't!
Our next discussion will be a zero issue for Wonder Woman. The story and art were by Brian Kiss My Azzarello and Cliff Chump Chang. The coloring by Bow Now 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 Muddy Matt Wilson. Now 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 Now. It's got to be a blues name. You got to put it in there. Lettering by Jittery Jared Fletcher. Assist by corny Chris Conroy.
Speaking of corny.
And editor Malignant Matt Idelson.
Wonder Woman created by?
Oh, of course. Wonder Woman created by William Moulton Marston.
I adored this issue. Go ahead. I know you. I can tell you're ready to jump out.
I was about to say the exact same thing, and I'm going to throw myself under the bus. I actually thought this really was when I first read this, I'm like, what? They're just digging up an old story and redoing it? What the heck, man? They're like, come on, everybody else did an original story. And I honestly, I completely thought that. Then I'm looking through and I see the creative story. I'm like, okay, what the, and then I'm looking for the original creative team. I hopped online. I'm trying to figure out who did the original team. And then after a couple minutes of looking, I go, oh my God, Jim, you're an idiot. This was really cool. And actually in my internet research, I realized they kind of took this off of the style that the creator, actually did. That, Marston actually, how he laid out the stories and the look and just the kind of the feel of the Wonder Woman stories that he was telling at the beginning. So I kind of liked, I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. This is a nod back to the originals, a nod back to the creator, but it's still the story being told of this Wonder Woman. It's still, the story, it's still within the new DCU. So we're getting a backstory on her. We're getting not a complete origin story, but we're getting a young Wonder Woman, a young Diana growing up as a kid. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I was really happy with this story once I realized what they had done.
I love the nod back to, because it feels like that era with Wonder Woman, Wonder Girl, and Wonder Tot.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's just artistically, it like goes back to the history of the character. It felt like it was something I knew it wasn't, only because I was familiar with the title names of the book back then, so I'm like, okay, all girl, all adventure tales for men, number 41. I knew that wasn't a real title, but I agree 110% with you that the mood and the tone really is a throwback. It takes you to a different place, yet you immediately partway through are like, wow, he did a really great job of, especially with the references to her as Clay, and how this was this secret that her mom kept. And that's the funny part where you almost want to smack Mom upside the head. I guess knowing how they would react if they knew she was a child of Zeus, how she would react if she knew she was a child of Zeus, and what danger she would be in if it was revealed she was a child of Zeus. It was much better to keep her being insulted as quote-unquote Clay than to tell the truth and put her in a position where she would be at risk the way all the other children of Zeus have been. So Mom did her a solid by doing this,
big time.
But it put her also in this life path where she was kind of separated from her Amazon sisters in a way that I don't think we ever saw explored. And I really liked that aspect of this. I think that little twist added a different dynamic to the Wonder Woman story that didn't take anything away from it, but it's a nice little twist on what we've seen before. It makes the retelling and the new version of this a little fresh, and doesn't take any of Diana away from me. What do you think about in the current Wonder Woman world there being no Amazons? Like we saw what happened to Diana losing her people. What do you think about that concept? Is that something you're enjoying?
Well, I'm not enjoying because I like the Amazons and I like, Hippolyta, and I feel bad for Wonder Woman because, I think she's a really cool person. But as a reader, I'm enjoying it because I think it's a cool story. I liked how as soon as it became public knowledge, Hera's like, oh, okay, fine. You're another one of these little indiscretions. Fine. Boom, you're punished. Drop the Amazons attack me. Fine, bam. Here's the power of a god. I loved seeing that rage, that anger, and again, completely justified why Hippolyta kept everything secret. Why she kept everyone thinking she was, born out of clay, out of mystic clay that they breathed life into, and all of that stories. I loved seeing why she was protecting her daughter. So, as a reader, I really enjoy this, and I'm hoping that down the line we get the Amazons back because. One, I want my friend to have her family back, but two, I also think that'll be kind of a cool story if the Amazons return. What's going to happen now that the Amazons are back? Will they be as understanding? Will they be a little bit miffed? Will they just want to live in peace? Will the world of man let them live in peace? There's so many different variations that could happen when you bring them back in. But for now, I'm digging Diana, how she's going on this, how she's going on the path, how she's searching for the truth, protecting her, half sister, I think. Yeah, I think gave birth to a girl. How she's protecting these people, how she's protecting that girl, how she's, what she's doing for the fight for the innocents. I love seeing Wonder Woman how she is, and even in Justice League where she's dealing with the fact that she's alone. These are great and really cool character stuff. I just, part of me does want to see the Amazons back because I also know those are great, cool character stuff. So I'm in a win-win situation, really.
You mentioned the baby, and it was issue 12, I believe, that the baby was stolen, right?
Yeah.
So we're not going to really talk about issue 12, but we got to talk about that. Hermes, who seemed like he's been a friend and a trusted ally to Wonder Woman, the god of thievery, ends up taking the baby. And, the question is, was he there all along for that purpose? What is his motivation for doing that? Is he doing it to protect the baby, to somehow mold the baby to take over under his guidance? Or was he on the side of Apollo along? Where's he going with this? I don't know. He's definitely got his own motivations, I believe, in what he's doing. I'm very curious to see where that's going. Do you have any speculation on why Hermes did this?
Yeah, kind of. Part of me, when I first read it, I was thinking, okay, he did this to protect the child. He did this to protect the mother. But the argument against that is the fact that Hera no longer has her powers. You don't have to worry about her wrath. You don't have to worry about that. So how much are you protecting the child? But then you get the whole prophecy of the child of Zeus will kill and take over thing and all the negative stuff that could come out of the prophecy. And part of me is thinking he's this is the child of Zeus. This is the prophecy that it's written about. It's not any of the other gods. It's not Diana. It's this baby is the prophecy. So he's thinking, to protect either all of the gods, to protect their way of life, to protect everything. This is what I got to go with. Because you look at this world. The gods aren't worshipped anymore. The gods are, modern man worships actors and athletes, and they have the other variations in churches that we believe in. These gods do not get the power of worship. They do not get that adoration. So if something were to completely get turned up on its ear, if the gods were to start getting slaughtered and killed and whatnot, there would be even more lasting and things would get crazy. So I'm thinking he's kind of looking out for the institution as a whole.
The sad part is none of them are right, because we see who the actual prophecy is in these issues, which is we're about to talk about that when we get to it. The one other thing I want to mention that was also revealed prior to this, the new gods. Yeah. We're seeing them. We saw does appear somewhat in these issues we're going to discuss, but Orion's appearance for the first time in the and
Highfather is there too.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, how do you feel about their appearance? Like, I was geeking out because first of all, I thought the slight tweaks to Orion's costume was great. I liked that it wasn't drastic. I liked that because there's something about that Kirby-esque look that I think works. I wanted to see them in here, but I like this introduction in a way that adds a mystery to them that I think matched their original introduction when Kirby did it. I thought this was really a good choice. I wonder, are they going to play in this upcoming Trinity War that's coming? Or are they in here for purposes specific to Diana's book? I don't know. Or both, which I think is probably the better answer on this one. But I really liked the appearance. I thought it added another mystery. A lot of what we were talking about, what I was liking about in The Flash, I like the mystery here. Like, this feels like an event in Wonder Woman. Yeah. These characters are being introduced, and it's really great to see, the DC universe being expanded, the world of gods being expanded inside Diana's book. And new gods here just kind of, I'm like, wow. At first I would be like, this is like the craziest place to introduce them because Diana's got her own gods, right? But it's acknowledging that this is a world with multiple gods, which is something we've always seen in the DC universe. And this seems like the appropriate place now to be introducing these characters. I really liked it.
Well, I'm agreeing with you. I was never too knowledgeable about the new gods. And it wasn't until the death of the new gods and the final crisis that I really started reading about them and pulling some back stuff and just, getting an understanding. And even then, my knowledge is still very limited on them. But I like the fact that they're using Diana's book. They're using Wonder Woman to bring in the new gods. And it was something you said just about how this is a world of multiple gods. We are now looking at the concept of gods differently. You have, the Greek gods. We now have the new gods coming in. These are two entities that could actually be cousins or siblings. We could end up finding out that the Greek gods are really new gods, that it came to Earth before and settled on Earth instead of dealing with their world, instead of dealing with Darkseid and dealing with all that. They came here and got the adoration. We can see all this may play out, and that's actually where I'm thinking this is going to go. You think about the classic Star Trek episode where the Greek gods were really just aliens that came to Earth. I think we're going to see that kind of playing out here, that's maybe what we're going to get from these Greek gods. Maybe they are that type of being. They're not a god, whereas we have with Jesus, with all the various variations of that we currently worship. But on the other hand, you look at that, who knows, are they going to play that route? And I think I'm always leery when I start reading about gods in a comic book because you got to watch people's belief. Yeah, we don't have to worry about anyone insulting anybody who worships Zeus because I'm pretty sure if there's people out there, there's not too many of them. There won't be that many who get insulted by it. But when you start throwing out the term God, when you start throwing out religion, you start getting people. You can anger, offend, and insult somebody without batting an eye and not realizing you're doing it. I like how they're playing with the concept of God here. I like how they're doing this and how they're introducing more gods into this universe. It's, to me, this is very, this is a great way of doing it, and this is I would say probably the perfect title to introduce this concept in there. So I'm very, very excited about having the new gods in here because I want to see their connection to the Greek gods. I want to see their connection to the world of man. I want to see who they are. I think we're going to get an explanation that I can really grab my hands on and get a good feel for.
See, my thing is, one of the things I love about the exploration of gods in comics and in fiction literature is that's fiction literature. I don't think they should be afraid to go any route using lore from the past, even from history, and modifying it. I've played the games Assassin's Creed, for example, where they'll play around with historical concepts of real people, but they're adding in these assassins and the Templars and all this lore and things that just they didn't really happen, but they're adding these things in to throw like that. It's a play off of the whole conspiracy nonsense that goes on. I really like that because it skirts the line of realism, but it's fiction storytelling, and there's big disclaimers in the front of the game when you load it up that says this is a work of fiction. It could be a work of friction, depending on if people get offended. But it's a work of fiction put together by a multicultural group that a development team. And I like that they put the disclaimer there because it's obviously for the purposes of any of the naysayers, who would get offended by it. It's a game. It's not reality. It's a game. I think fiction should not be afraid to explore some of these themes that are real in a fictional sense because it's fiction. If they presented this as this is true events, then I think you might have a reason to be offended because they're skirting in the, smacking in the face of what you really believe in. But if you're presenting it as a fictional story, you should be able to bring in those characters and be able to do things like that because it's a fictional story. And as long as you're really clear that it's fiction, if it's not your cup of tea because it's like treading on some of your religious beliefs, then you shouldn't read it. But the thing is, it's being presented as a fiction story. It's not being presented in a way where it's saying what you believe is wrong. And that's where I think the line is. There's a difference between a nonfiction book smacking your beliefs and a fiction book presenting a story using possibly real characters in their story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like in this case, this is a comic book representation of Zeus. Even if somebody, is around it and still worships Zeus and still is into those gods, I don't mean that as any... I don't know what kind of backing they've got. If there is, there's a lot of people who still believe in those. As they do, that's great. More power to them because those are personal beliefs and things like that. I don't think a fiction story like this slaps in the face of that because I'm real clear this is fiction. So I'm not sitting here like, anybody who's... I'm not going to say to somebody, hey, I read Wonder Woman, and I'm convinced nothing you believe in is true. That's bad on me, not them. You know what I mean? That I'm taking a fiction story to be reality. So I never have a problem with comic books or fiction literature, or even film, telling their own stories, as long as they're presenting themselves as fiction and not true, real stories. They're not presenting themselves as being the facts. They're presenting as just a great story that's being told. I think that there's clever, like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I'm not like sitting there going, this smacks in the face of everything I ever believed about Abraham Lincoln. I mean, it's clearly a fiction story. And that may not be the best example because there's other stories as well that have been artists' interpretations of maybe real events that have happened. And it's just that you got to remember that's an interpretation. That doesn't mean that it's reality. They weren't there. That's just their take on everything. And that doesn't have to fly in the face of your own beliefs.
I think that Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter is a perfect example of what I was kind of trying to get at. Mm-hmm. Because, when you deal with the term God, when you deal with any type of religion, you do get a visceral reaction. You will. And I'm not knocking anybody who has this. If there's anybody who does get insulted by this, I'm not saying you're wrong. These are your beliefs. This is your faith. I will never tell anybody you shouldn't think this, you shouldn't feel this. But I think, when you start getting religion, you really do get people who will be more passionate, people who will, have a reaction quicker than you would with anything else. Now, Abraham Lincoln is probably one of, if not the most respected presidents in American history. The fact that they make him a vampire hunter could very easily insult somebody who would say, hey, Abraham Lincoln was this great man. How can you make mockery of his life? Well, it's just a story. It's just fun. But I could, it's that same. I could see people having that type of reaction. Now, I didn't I never read anybody anywhere. I didn't see any protests to the story, but I would kind of understand if it did happen. Same thing when you start dealing with gods in fiction. I could see people having a reaction to it.
Just for example, like Ben Franklin was in Assassin's Creed. I wasn't like sitting there going to myself, oh my gosh, this flies in the face of everything I know about Ben Franklin. It was used in a way where they used Ben Franklin where he would naturally appear at that point in history. It's a game. I think we as a society have got to separate fiction from reality. If it's not your cup of tea because it is like flying in the face of your reality, and you're like, I really don't like stories that do that, then you shouldn't read that. You know what I mean? And just accept that it's just not your cup of tea and move along. And I can respect that 110%. Not every story is meant for every reader. Not every film, not every game is meant for every player, every viewer. We need to know what things like, if you're a fan of like tried and true, straightforward, honest history, you shouldn't go see a movie like Abraham Lincoln Vampire. I mean, that's not your cup of tea. It's not for you. I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not knocking the movie. I just threw it out there as an example because I'm like, well, that's clearly ridiculous. And like, I don't know. I'm strangely interested in it. I probably will see it at some point, and I'm not like trying to pretend like I'm hoity-toity. I just haven't had time to see it. It's one of those that I know I'll see on video just because I think it was Tim Burton, and if it was Tim Burton, I'll end up seeing it just because it was Tim Burton. But I don't know the history of it, but I threw that out there just because it's kind of interesting to this storytelling. I like this whole quest that she's going on. She's at a certain age in her life where she's got to go on this quest to prove herself. And I always like that. It goes back to the whole fantasy fiction thing that I love. This whole quest, she gets the harpy egg and then escapes narrowly because she just happens to know the island and all the secret caves, better than this harpy would. And obviously, the way the harpy travels wouldn't be conducive to going underwater and its underwater cave the way that she does. I really liked how that whole thing played out. This idea that since childhood she's had to prove herself, and her mother's worry that if she doesn't, how it will reflect on her, but yet being proud of her daughter. Those kind of things were really things that I just ate up, and I thought were a great part of this story.
Yeah, and I loved seeing the fight between her and Alkia. Just again, that was a cool contest, and seeing her throw down, and she's initially realizing, hey, she's coming after me for real. I got to step up my game. I got to actually fight. And this is that early young Diana who doesn't have all the training, who doesn't have, she's had, the beginning trainings, but she's not the accomplished, gifted warrior that can take everybody on the island without batting an eye. And I like seeing the fight, and I like seeing her win. This was a really cool sequence, which again leads to the whole clay throwing and just the fighting and just, again, a very visceral reaction. And one of the things I saw was you see the background crowd, the other Amazons watching, and just, it's the, and when the initial fight sequence, when Diana just beating on her, you kind of see a, look on people's faces, and her mom's running up, stop, you're hurting her. You kind of, there's a holy crud, what just happened here? This went from being what we thought was just going to be a sport competition to this got serious really quickly.
Well, Alika hit the below the belt there, because she's basically telling her you're never going to be a true Amazon warrior because you're just clay, and throws mud at her, really for the purpose of goading her. I mean, she calls for that one. Alika really deserved everything she got in that moment. Now, Mom did the right thing, because you don't want her killing her sister because of this. And I mean, really, Diana had snapped at this point. But it just goes to show that when you're a child and you're bullied like that, I think today, in this day and age, there's a lot of talk throughout our country about bullying and the dangers of bullying and awareness. And this is a great example of, like, in this story where I'm like, I get it. This poor kid snapped. As a society, we've got to be well aware of this kind of stuff. I grew up experiencing some bullying when I was in school. And the big problem with that is, you got to watch yourself that you don't come back. And I know I've been guilty of this at times where, you'll pick on other people, through the things that you say, deliberately for the purpose of, like, you're trying to, because you felt like growing up that other people were superior to you, to picking on you. You do that kind of stuff to kind of boost your own self. It becomes a cyclical nonsense, that you're kind of embedded with. Like, Diana's whole thing in this one is, if I can beat her down, I can prove that I'm better than her, because she's gone into this fit of rage at that moment. And she realizes that, like, it had the opposite effect. She becomes scary, and her mom catches her in that, and she's got to like wonder, why am I so different than everybody else? Why am I the one burdened with, being this creature of clay? I don't really have a mother and father. When the truth is, we know she has both.
Yeah.
Hippolyta really is her birth mother. Zeus really is her father. I actually like that twist. I didn't think I would, but it's something I've grown to really, really enjoy in this series as it's gone on, especially when you see these moments in her childhood and knowing, no, you're wrong. You weren't ever this. I like the whole clay thing because I think it's very contemporary today with our concerns about this, about bullying. I think it's a very real and genuine concern as a society. I think we should be aware of that. I think it leads to a lot of the things we've seen in society, and we need to be well aware of the fact that we need to protect kids from this. And I love that this appears in this story in such a way that sometimes art imitates life. It does it here in a very contemporary fashion.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I like seeing Diana afterwards. And I hate saying I like seeing her crying and brokenhearted. I'm not saying that. I'm not sadistic that way. But again, we've been talking about human reactions, real reactions, true reactions. And this little girl who is sad and scared, why couldn't I have had normal parents? Why couldn't I have had just this life? Just that true, again, a real and honest reaction in a comic book. In this story, we're talking about an Amazonian princess who believes she was born out of clay. We're saying that's she's having a realist reaction out of that super fantasy world. And it's that kind of stuff that gets me into the comic, that gets me following it and believing it and wanting to read more. And, Wonder Woman is a title that, as the time has gone on, I've really started enjoying this character. I've really started enjoying who she is, seeing more of the style of Wonder Woman that I enjoy coming out of this story. It's not what I've read in the past. It's not the stuff that I thought was absolutely wonderful. It's, it's a different Wonder Woman, but I'm seeing the cool factors of stuff that I thought was really neat about the character. And this past here, you're seeing the young Diana who will grow into that princess, who will grow into Wonder Woman. And you get the glimpses of it, and it's something I really enjoyed out of this Zero issue, 13, 14, and I'm looking forward to beyond.
I like War, and I like the whole relationship with her, seeing the training. How really, I like the idea that this god also has, I like the idea of the gods having weaknesses where they can make mistakes. In the case of War, where War has a certain, code, you have to, you must kill when you hit this point and all that stuff, but doesn't do it with Diana, during their battle.
Yeah.
He shows that compassion there. And her being able to then, again, we see it later where she throws it back in his face saying, but you didn't do it with me. I think that compassionate heart that we see in this is something that at the core I've always thought was there with Diana. I think it's really important to have that there with Diana. It's why I agree with you. This is exactly the kind of Wonder Woman storytelling I've always liked. It's slightly different because the gods have been, modified, obviously, and modernized for today. But at its core, it's what's great about Wonder Woman. And it's really important that it's there. It's what my favorite authors have done with Wonder Woman throughout the years that I've really enjoyed, all the way back to the, from the Perez run, which is really where I got on board, straight on through to present day. The authors that have touched Wonder Woman along the way that I've really, really dug have had this person in mind. And that's where it really works for me.
You know what I liked about that sequence between Diana and War was, and we later see his visceral reaction over it, where she's like, I'm ready to die by your hands. Diana's words shake War to his core. Princess, a warrior knows that death be the price of war. A warrior never accepts death. A warrior fights to the death. I loved seeing just the fact that he in a way, he was more upset that she was willing to die and she was ready to die. She should have kept fighting. She should have tried to knee him or throw a punch or gouge out the open sockets that are his eyes or done something. She should have kept fighting on. And I like seeing that. He had that reaction. Then later, when she spares the Minotaur, he has, again, that same anger towards her, that she doesn't have that same mindset that he has about what is war. There's something more to Diana. And that's the thing I love about Diana, that she's not the warrior, the killing machine. There is something more beyond just the kill, just the fight. Yeah, she's an accomplished warrior. She kicks butt severely. If I was in a fight, she's the one I'd want. She's one of the heroes I'd want watching my back because she's that good. But she's not. There's something more to her. There's a level beyond just the fight, and that makes her, not an implement of war. She's, more complex than that.
I love that this is the same bearded old man that we've seen in the series throughout.
Yeah, just a little bit different look to him.
Yeah.
Change of clothes, but it's still the same guy.
Yeah, and well, obviously, a younger version of him that I think is younger because of maybe where he was at in that time in his life. It begs the question: do you think the gods really age, or do you think it's more of their spirit, is reflective of who they are, at that time? Is he older because his spirit has worn down?
Well, it was weird because when I first read this, I thought this took place a while ago, and Diana was really, really old, and just older than what we actually thought. But when we're in War's, his training area, and you look at the weaponry on the wall, there's all the swords and all the other type of implements. But on the one wall, there's a pure wall of modern weaponry. Mm-hmm. So War, I think age is irrelevant to a god. I think they choose how old they look. They choose how they're identified by the outside world based on what's going on around them, based on what they feel like, how they want to be perceived, or how they perceive themselves. So I think with War right here, we're getting we're getting a young face and an old style to him because that's how he sees himself as. He sees himself as the young buck kicking butt and taking names. Later on, when we get a glimpse of him, he's the older man because, there's still war going on. Yeah, there's still the chaos and the carnage, but he's a little different now. He's not going to sit back, and he's more of a spectator as opposed to the person who's actually pulling playing puppet master and tweaking the strings.
Do you think War knew, who she was?
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because when he first notices her, he's like, maybe she's the one. And he's like, she's got skills, and she's got, he's looking at her skills, and she's like, hey, And it's funny, as I'm talking to you right now, I'm starting to convince myself that maybe he did know. Or maybe he had a suspicion. Because he's like, she's got skills beyond her years. Maybe she's the one. So maybe he did know that she is the prophecy. Maybe he did know she's the daughter of Zeus. But, if he knew, who else would know? Why wouldn't have Hera reacted sooner? Because as soon as Hera found out, that's when she reacted. So if he knew about her, why didn't she? So part of me was saying no, but as I'm talking right now to you, I'm thinking maybe he did know. And maybe that's why he was trying to manipulate her, trying to kind of guide her in his image, so he could maybe control what the prophecy is.
Or guide, the person that would be the leader of the gods. I don't know. It was a real interesting twist. I'm with you. I don't think it's cut and dry. So I wasn't throwing it out there saying that I was set either way. But there were parts of it where I was like, I wonder if he knows. And if you see him as the old man, the times that we've seen him, it does feel like a lot of times he knows things that he keeps his own counsel about that he wouldn't tell the others. He's very cryptic in his reaction with them. So he's not. He's not a character that's above keeping a secret like that. And I find him fascinating. So I don't know. I don't know that it's cut and dry on that either way. I'm with you. There were moments where I was like, kind of the way you were talking yourself into it. I've been doing the same thing, but then I've talked myself out of it too. So I don't know where I'm at on it. But there was part of me that I would not be shocked to find out he knew, and I wouldn't be shocked to find out he didn't for the same reasons.
I think and part of me, I don't know. I think and I keep going back and forth on this one with all the gods and who knew what and who didn't know. And I definitely think if he knew, he would keep it to himself, because that would be something he would want to make sure there's no point, in his mind to throwing this out there. And I think he would wait and pick his time to actually reveal it. And in what he's about, he's not the gossipy god. So I can't see him trying to stir the pot. I can't see him trying to cause the chaos or the anarchy within the gods themselves, unless he could completely control the outcome. And I think when you start dealing with a illegitimate child of Zeus, you're not going to have that controlled chaos. There's always going to be something weird. So he's just going to sit back and see how things play out.
You know, I like in that end bit where you see the Minotaur that she spared, and which caused, obviously, the division between her and War in that moment. But she looks into the eyes of the Minotaur afterwards, and, you know, is that respect I see? And I like her trying to look into the creature's soul, trying to see something in the creature to justify her actions. Is she right in what she's doing? This is her at a very young age. And her doing that, I do think, is Diana at the core. And I like seeing that happen with her. And, you know, when she shows up on the island and, you know, she questions, did I do the right thing or not? And, you know, I need to give a tribute to my mom. Do I have that tribute to give her? Is my mercy enough for my mom? And her questioning if that's the right path for her. That would be something a girl at her age would be very much questioning, because she hasn't had enough experience to, you know, really know what is the right path for her. You know, the point where she'd have the conviction to say 110% standing true to my values is what I should be doing. I really liked all of that. The play out of all of that was, I thought, really, really great.
Oh, God, yeah. Again, this is the kind of Diana that I like. This is, you know, it's the warrior princess, the diplomat, the hero who solves things not just by, you know, chopping them in half and beating them up, but who actually can go one step beyond that, who can think her way through the problem, who can identify that, no, I don't need to punch this one. Yes, I need to punch this one. You know, those are the cool Wonder Woman stories for me. And that is something that, as this series is going on, I'm getting more of that. I'm getting more glimpses of the Diana that I really enjoy coming from this. Now, I've enjoyed this from issue 1, so I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it, but I am getting more of that Wonder Woman that, you know, in my head, in my heart, I think this is what Wonder Woman should be. I'm seeing that out of this character, and I'm really happy that this is something that's playing out. We're seeing her as the Guardian, as the Defender. We're seeing this person, you know, is this warrior who eventually maybe someday would have a secret identity. Right now, it wouldn't completely make sense for her to have it. But down the line, especially her interaction, she's dealing with Clark, and she's dealing with Superman, and she's learning what he gets out of that. I could see maybe eventually Diana going, hey, maybe I should have a secret identity. Maybe I should walk among the humans as one of them and see what life is like. You know, down the line, I think we may get that, and I like those stories. I like that kind of stuff out of Diana.
Yeah, I'd love to see that too. I'm with you 100%. I think that would be a direction I'd like to see this go in. You know what though? But I'm like you. Eventually, you know, whenever the story naturally leads there. I'm greatly enjoying this series since the get-go. I think it's been since issue 1, it was really clear that they were taking Diana in a new direction. They were really trying to keep at the core what makes Wonder Woman work. I like that along the way we haven't been just getting to know Diana, we've been getting to know the gods, and that the gods are playing a pivotal role behind the scenes. I've always enjoyed that. I think that's something that's really necessary in Wonder Woman storytelling. I think they become a great supporting cast. Using them in the way that they are hits at the core of what I think really works for Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman needs a good, strong supporting cast. And that's happening here. I think the sister being brought in, it works in a way that, you know, you and I were big fans of Gail Simone's run. We were really enjoying Nemesis. And I think, you know, the sister in there is filling a role that we enjoyed with Nemesis, that I think has really worked with that character. And I'm having a lot of fun with. You know, as we get into issue 13, the art team shifts a little bit. We get Tony Akins on pencils, Dan Green with Tony Akins on inks, and Matthew Wilson on colors. And everybody else is the same. This gets into a lot of what I was talking about. We get to see this man who's scarred up horribly. At first I wondered if this might be Vandal Savage, but then as it went on, I don't know if you had that same feeling, but as it went on, I began to realize, no, this is one of the children of Zeus, and this ultimately is the one that the prophecy's speaking of. At least that's the way I'm totally taking this.
Completely agree with you on both points. When I first saw this, I was like, is that Vandal? Wait, what the heck? And then I'm trying to remember if I saw a modern version of him, and I'm trying to remember back in Demon Knights, or I'm like, I wonder if that's him. And then, you know, just
well, we did see him. Remember in the DC Presents,
right? So I knew that but I was trying to figure. Then as soon as he gets to that point where he's like, you know, I'm the crippler of souls, the firstborn. I'm like, oh, okay, we know who he is. Oh, this is gonna get good.
I love how he learns language.
Crunch, chomp, 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 chew.
Yes. This is
Oh,
this is exactly why you should be scared. Because there's times on this show where you invent your own language. And you do it more than you realize. And I can see this guy, like if he comes up, he's clearly not biting my head. He's going to bite yours instantly. Because you do have a twisted logic to your language that you invent. Like there's always, like anytime I call you on a word, you've got like a completely logical explanation as to why that word works.
yeah.
But your head would be so chomped on immediately. Because you would say one of those things that you normally do, he would immediately go, I don't understand what he just said. And see, I ask you, he'd bite your head.
Hold on, I'm going to defend myself on this one. I think if we're in the middle of Antarctica and this guy were to come out of nowhere, I think between the two of us, you would be the first one to walk up and start talking. I would be the guy hiding who goes, help! You know,
But-
I think that's more of our personalities. You would have more courage and would actually walk up to them. I would be the guy hiding.
Agreeing with you, but I'm taking it as I'm going to walk up to this guy after this has already happened. Meaning, like, I'm taking chronologically. This guy already knows our language because he bit this guy's head. I'm talking about a you and me that run into him on the street like maybe 3 issues from now.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
And I agree with you. I'd probably approach him and talk to him first. He already knows my language. You're going to start, like, we're going to have one of our conversations, and then, like, you'll be talking perfectly normally. Then you'll throw in one of your words. And your head's going to be bitten.
I become a chew toy.
Yeah. Even and whatnot. You throw in an and whatnot, he's going to be like, what does that mean? And I'm not going to be able to give him an answer.
Yeah. Well, he'll just point at me going, "Nah, it's some strange language. I don't know what it is."
No, but like you'll
As you
do.
pull out some Tabasco, you put it on my head,
but-
you're doing some seasoning in my hair. There you go. Enjoy.
See, and the truth of the matter is, you don't do that though. You always have an answer. Well, it's like a state of being. It's a then you would just say enough that he would think you knew what you were talking about. I found a pattern on our show. I plot your demise.
Yes, and I try to protect myself, and you were always able to turn it around, and I still end up dead.
I really don't want you dead because
Should I be worried?
no, I really don't want you dead because this would be a very lonely podcast, and honestly, nobody wants to hear me talk incessantly without like somebody breaking it up. So it's we really need you. It would be a horrible show without you. Again, we see war, and I like that this is a war who's been through the things we saw in the Zero issue. It's funny how he reads differently to me now after the Zero issue. Like, I think when he was with Diana, he had a lot of hope for her being the direction he wanted to see things go in. And I think after that event, it led to him looking at a lot of things differently and looking at a lot of potential people to fill that role differently. Like, she was the closest he'd come to what he ultimately hoped to accomplish. I don't know. Are you seeing it that way? Am I seeing this the same way you are? Like, seeing him so downtrodden here really is in result of what happened with the battle with her led him down this path. Am I wrong?
I think so. I think he was hoping to have his champion, have the person who embraced his way of thinking and his way of life. And it's just something it's going away. And he's recognizing that, yeah, there's still violence and there's still chaos and there's still things, but there is no war. There is no code that is, there is no belief that war is. So when Diana rejected him all those years ago, he lost he lost his power play, is how I think he's seeing it. So he's just, he's sitting back and he's just drinking and he's just spectator. He's no longer enjoys the ruckus. He no longer enjoys the violence and the carnage that is war, which is what he used to enjoy. He's been maybe changed. Maybe he looks at life differently now. So you definitely see a different person now than then.
I like when Apollo's having his meeting of his brothers and sisters. It's not all the gods. It's only the ones that are relations to him, like direct relations to him, brothers and sisters and things like that. Smith shows up. And it's funny, Smith was an ally of Diana's in previous storytelling. Now we're seeing Smith say, well, in this case, it's family, and I'm here because it's family. It's not an admission that all of these, characters get along, but the end result, they are family. And that's something Diana needs to be very aware of as this moves forward. But I loved when Athena doesn't show up. Or it's going to say, no justice for you, eh, Apollo? I love the digs, because this fits this guy. He's not afraid to get that dig into the place. And I really don't think he cares if they try to come after him. I think he would welcome the battle. Wouldn't he? Because he has to know that he's antagonizing, right? He's not a dumb man.
I don't know if he's really antagonizing per se, as I think this is just I don't think he's like trying to poke the fires. I think he's just, I don't know. I think he's defeated. In his heart and soul, he is defeated. Mm-hmm. So he's just a bitter old drunk. And he's living off of the spoils of war. He's living off of what was in the past. And he's a nothing. And I think you see kind of a fire in Apollo where he's like, hey, and it's enough for you, and war backs down. And war's not looking for a fight.
No, but wouldn't he welcome the battle to have a sense of purpose again? Because I'm actually, everything you just said there, I agree with. He's stuck with the spoils of war because there is no war for him to fight. Is he looking for that battle? Maybe not even, I'm not even saying like if you asked him about it, he'd be able to bring that to the table. But is he looking for that sense of purpose that he no longer seems to have? I don't know. And maybe you think I'm wrong, and that's okay. But I was like, everything you were saying about him being downtrodden and broken and stuff like that, I agree with. But is he constantly poking, trying to find that sense of purpose again that will reinvigorate him? I don't know. I guess I don't. I'm throwing out there as a question more than like a something I'm digging my heels in on. Because I agree with everything you said. Like, I agree. You nailed on the head where I'm seeing him right now. He's very downtrodden.
Yeah.
And it is the spoils of war that are, like, making him that way. But is he looking for that sense of purpose? Because a lot of times people that are doing that are looking, constantly craving that, like, that one moment that will give them enlightenment to a purpose again. And is there that part of him there that like, wants that? Or is he looking for that ending to it all? I don't know.
He could be. And I don't know. I think it's going to be curious to see when the firstborn shows up.
Yeah.
And when the actual battle happens. Because I see him just sitting back and just enjoying it and not, or maybe he's going to maybe he'll be one of the guys who welcomes the death and welcomes his destruction. I don't know. He's a character that you look at and you think about, and depending on how you're reading him or how I'm feeling at the time when I'm reading him, I'm going to read him a little bit differently. Like today, I'm reading him a little bit differently. Today, I'm reading him as just the defeated old man who, is done. Whereas when I first read through this, I didn't see that. I saw the antagonist. I saw, okay, he's not done yet. There's a possibility of some, skirmishes here. So I don't know war yet. I'm still getting a good solid grasp on him. And I think the Zero issue was a really cool revelation into who he is. And, you see his last hope is gone now.
I agree with that. And I like the whole bit with Moon, where you see the aftermath of the battle with Diana, and really this kind of outrage of the gods. Like, this is somebody who's a threat. For her to do this, we can't allow her to keep getting this momentum, to keep moving in this direction. And I like that they're addressing that. That wouldn't be something they would just ignore. And there is that kind of outrage to her that is still in place, and figuring out what to do with her, because she's part of the family too.
Yeah, she's also a child of Zeus. So, was she even invited?
I'm guessing not. I'm guessing
a
big part of their conversation was to talk about her.
Yeah.
Lennox and Diana having that moment where they're having conversations. I really liked the more we've gotten to know Lennox. Yeah. He was a character at first I wasn't sure how to feel about. Where was he going to be? What was his purpose? I actually thought he was more of a guest appearance, like he was going to be around for an arc, and then we were going to be kind of done with him. I love that we're not. I love that this is becoming a little band that she's getting together with, and they're building loyalties and a friendship there. I like that he can heal too, because I was really afraid that the beating that he took was going to eventually Lennox was going to crumble. Because I really do like him.
Oh God, yeah. And I was worried when you start dealing with mystical creatures, how do they heal? How long does it take for them to heal? What's going to happen with him? I was worried that we were always going to have the crackly faces, and I didn't think he was going to continue crumbling, but I didn't think there was going to be much healing going on. I was going to think this is how he was going to continue on. So I'm glad to see he's still around. He's a cool character, and I'm really, really digging the fact that Hera is now human, and just having to deal with her and Lola and just everything going on between them, just the general rage and the anger and just the resentment and just everything, these emotions that are just flying off the handle. And it's, again, some really cool Diana moments, some really cool people moments. And I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to this cast.
Yeah, I keep thinking more.
Yes.
More. That's the sign of a great book when you, as a reader, you just want to be brought into more of the story. You want it to delve further into the things that have been really, really cool about it. And that's been a real strength of this series, has been that just this constant quest for more for me as a reader. I'm a big Wonder Woman fan, and it's funny over the years how there have been creators through their runs. Perez was really the one. I've got that series, when that kicked off in that relaunch, it was the first time I read Wonder Woman since the beginning, a real start of the issue. Being able to read that and see how cool her world was. I've always been a fan of the gods. I took astronomy in high school. And that series, when that came out, was really during those years for me. There was something in the late 80s, being able to really start taking a look at Wonder Woman as a concept. This is a big time of change for DC. You had, Dark Knight Returns. You had, stuff going on with Superman being relaunched. You had Wonder Woman being relaunched. You had that Legends series coming out. That was all stuff that, and then into the early 90s, you had, a lot of change going on. I really liked that kind of stuff when it was coming out. Wonder Woman in high school was a book that I was starting to really dig. It was because of runs like that I was getting into the character. Today, to see that kind of reinvigorating of her, while honoring, I think, everything that's come before, is something that I've been really, really enjoying. I love the stuff with Hera being human now, and I love how it makes sense that Diana's half-sister is going to be kind of going, hey, wait a minute, you put me in this position. My baby's missing. And that would be a mother who is just enraged to say, if you could have just left us alone, I would have just had my baby in peace and not been a bother to you at all. And that would be the outrage she'd feel. And I love that moment because I'm like, I get it. And I would have a hard time stopping her. I would stop her because Diana's right to do what she does. And I like Diana's I would not let a friend do this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just about needing Hera alive to save her mother and her sisters. It is about what Lola would go through if she actually killed somebody. What that would do to her as a person if she took a life. And again, it's Diana being Diana. This is the cool stuff that makes her Wonder Woman and not just an Amazon. There's something beyond that level, that thought process. And those are the stuff that I'm like, damn, that's cool. This is some Wonder Woman stuff going on. I was really giddy about just, the even seeing her in normal street clothes and just everything, how she was handling herself, the way she was drawn there. I was like, this is some cool stuff. This is, again, what I would expect to see.
Tell me it wouldn't be cool to really see Wonder Woman wander into Libya like this.
Oh, yeah.
I so loved her having the cloak on and just how cool it looked when she revealed herself and they're opening fire and you see her flying above them and using her bracelets and everything. This is to me the best of what I love about Wonder Woman. It's those high action sequences. It's that sense of confidence and power. And, she is one of the big three. And there's a way that she should carry herself that is a little different. I'm loving Batgirl to death because of Batgirl's vulnerabilities as well as her strengths. In Diana's case, when she comes walking into town like that, that swagger should look a little different than it would look for a Batgirl.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on the character. I love the distinction. I think good creators understand, what makes this character work versus this character. Batgirl, it shouldn't look like this. Wonder Woman, it should look like this. I love that I love both books because of the distinctions and because of how well these creators have crafted them. Supergirl, same thing. She carries herself differently. There is a confidence to Supergirl, but it looks different than Wonder Woman's. And that's important too. These are creators who understand that strong female characters should look different and they should have their own personalities and they come from their backgrounds and their upbringings and all that stuff. I think DC's books with women right now are really continuing to evolve and grow. And I'm hoping these titles are getting new readers who maybe hadn't thought of, touching on these characters before, because I think they're really great. This is like really cutting edge material that's very, very different than you're getting from a male hero's book.
Oh, definite. And it's a hero's book. The main character just happens to be female. And I think for me, that's something huge with Wonder Woman, that I get these moments that I get from my Superman. I get from, Flash. I get from Aquaman. I get those kind of really cool hero moments, my dun-da-da moments. I get plenty of those from Diana just because, she is this great character. And it's a character that, as time has gone on, I've gotten to know, I've gotten to enjoy. And as this series is going on, I'm getting closer and getting tighter with their creation of her. There's the new 52 version of Wonder Woman is a really good character now. This is a solid hero. This is a solid character. And we got a solid cast going along. It's, there's been times when I'm laughing. There's times when I'm cheering. There's times I'm like, oh, man, kind of tugging at the heartstrings. It's not just a female character. It's a character who happens to be female. And for me, that's an important distinction. That's something I'm really digging about the female heroes of the DCU. They are heroes, first and foremost, who happen to be female. I don't look at them differently. Like, when I look at like movies, like, the female rom-coms, I see those movies, I go, okay, that's not for me. I know for a fact, but I'm seeing the trailers and the previews, I'm like, that's not for me. When I read a Wonder Woman book, this is for me. This isn't written just for females. This is written for everybody who enjoys a good superhero story, who enjoys a really solid comic book that's not just surface. There's other levels and other variations and whatnot in this character, and this is something that they're really putting out and really getting me excited for.
I love when the basket opened up.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was who it was going to be. I thought it was Diana saving, I thought it was going to be like an atrocity going on to a female, a little kid, and then Diana was going to have a chance to like maybe defend this little kid and right the injustice and that type of thing, not knowing that this was going to turn out to be her relation that she's been looking for. And I really loved how that played out because I didn't see it coming up until a certain point. Where they naturally led us to it. Maybe you did. I did not see this girl being who it was going to be.
Part of me thinks, when I saw her, I was like, what? Part of me was thinking, okay, I was thinking this was going to be something. I didn't think it was going to be who it was. I was thinking it was going to be a setup for the real to attack, if that makes sense to you. I was kind of thinking it wasn't exactly going to be a little girl. I was thinking it was going to be a monster or something, that, either was the minion of the relative she was going for or somehow associated. I wasn't thinking it was directly connected to the sister that she was looking for.
I thought that journey was going to lead to the attack you're mentioning. I agree with you. I didn't think of this girl. I guess that's what I'm saying. I thought this was genuinely a little girl. I thought that the end result was going to be Diana's protecting her. And using her as a guide because she has knowledge of the area, but also that Diana was going to like make sure that this girl didn't wind up back in the same position. The typical stuff that you expect from Diana. I did not expect it to turn out that she was going to morph.
I was thinking that this definitely wasn't just a little girl. I didn't think it was her sister that she was looking for, but I knew that wasn't just a little girl, just because it was something. She was too carefully placed, too perfectly positioned, and the fact that this little girl, I know exactly where you need to go. Come on, let me take you there. I was thinking she was going to turn into like a harpy or something, and an attacker, and Diana was going to have to cut her in half or do something. I didn't see how this was going to play out, but I knew there was something more to that little kid.
Even when she first got stabbed, I thought that before looking at the other panels below it, I thought that, okay, now Diana's going to have to do something. And then I said, wait, Sand, uh-oh. That's when I realized that, oh, no, this is going to be really, really bad. That ending, where she's like has her hands around her throat. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was her all along, right in front of us. I got to admit, I was swerved by it. I'm not ashamed to admit I was swerved by it. I really enjoyed that I was swerved by it. I thought it was great storytelling, and in your own way, you were swerved by it. You just saw her you ultimately were suspicious of her nature. And
It
was a great build. But I mean, you were obviously closer to it than I was. In your assumptions on what was going on with the characters. So I'm giving you nods on being closer to it than I was. But I like that we were both swerved in some way by the storyline. I think it was really cool how it played out.
Oh, agree.
Again, we're back to... Now, this is the son of Hera, right? This guy? Isn't that the issue?
I thought he was the son of Zeus.
No, son of Zeus and Hera. The firstborn.
Yeah. Hey, he's the son of... Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm saying there's a distinction between this guy, all of the ones that Hera's hunting... Yeah. And we've got a Hera who's...
He's a full god. He's a full god. He's not a half god.
No, and what happens when mom and son hook up? Because she's got a genuine reason to want him after she's been cast out. With her knowledge and him together, they can cause a lot of damage. Because I'm guessing this is leading to her and him getting hooked up. I mean, Hera is not going to somehow turn on the side of good. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't see her going pure good. I do see if Diana can get her back in the graces of the god and make her no longer mortal. I can see her maybe doing a favor, saying, "Okay, I'll free your sisters, or I'll free your mother." Or I can see her doing something like that. It's kind of like when we talked about the rogues. I see her doing just enough to make the scales even between the two of them. Nothing more, nothing less.
My point is, unlike the rogues, though, I don't think Diana's going to have the chance. I think this guy coming back now is going to put Hera in a different position where instead of Diana being able to do... I think Diana's thinking and what she's trying to do is absolutely correct. I think it's not going to pay off for Diana because I think this guy and mom are going to hook up.
Possible. Definitely, this could throw a whole monkey wrench in Diana's plans. This is definitely going to throw a monkey wrench in Apollo's plans. So, yeah. Now, one of the things I was wondering, what if this is actually the essence of Zeus in this child?
Except he keeps referencing him to himself, his father's doing, and his bitterness towards his father. I wouldn't think the essence of Zeus... it's not if it wasn't what he was saying about the dad, I could see where you would go to that conclusion because that would be kind of cool. So I like the idea. It's just his constant bitter references to dad, my father's doing, and all this kind of stuff kind of leads me away from that. I'm curious about Zeus, and I'm wondering if you're probably having the same curiosities about Zeus that I am. That might be leading you to go to that conclusion because you want to see Zeus the same way I do. Because I'm very curious to see Zeus in all this.
Yeah. What if? I'm kind of getting my hands on something here.
Okay.
What if?
Make sure to use Purell afterwards.
Right. What if Lola's kid is actually Zeus, and it wasn't impregnated by Zeus, but it was the actual the fusing of his energy into her or something. But she gave birth to a girl. So that's what's throwing off my logic.
You're saying Zeus, in essence, is a girly man?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I could see that. I don't know. I guess I'm very curious. I guess I want that kid to not be that. And
yeah.
I'm not saying you're... This doesn't dispute you. Could it go that path? I kind of get that, where you're going to with that. It's more of a... I think I would be disappointed if it went that way. It's a cool idea. But I'd be disappointed if it went that way because, I so don't want Diana's, half-sister's kid to kind of go that route. I kind of like the idea of that kid not being that. I like the idea that the kid's not the one from the prophecy. And I kind of like the idea of... I'd like to see a story develop where, this half-sister becomes part of Diana's supporting cast. We get to see the kid grow up a little bit. You know what I mean? Gradually... I'd like to see a story with the kid. And is there a possibility this kid could... what are Hermes' plans? Is this kid going to be aged somehow throughout all this? I don't know. Maybe the next time Diana and the half-sister see the kid, will the kid be older than what we're used to? Because of what Hermes is trying to do. Or, will it still be a kid and Hermes is, waiting out and biding out time? I don't know. there's a whole bunch of unanswered questions. Like, we don't really know Hermes' plan. I'm kind of wondering, you remember Magic from the X-Men?
Yeah.
Colossus' sister, who kind of like went to that demon world and was pulled out, and she was like much older, when she came out of that world. And then, she like for years was constantly dealing with the fact that there was this part of her life that Colossus wasn't a part of, and she spent years in limbo. Yeah. I kind of wonder with this girl if we're going to see her next being older, I don't know if it's going to be that route or not. That's kind of me. Again, that's me digging and speculating with not a whole lot of reason to think that, other than I'm convinced Hermes has a plan. I want to know what it is. There's a part of me that's wondering, is Hermes being benevolent here and trying to protect her, or is there something else at work? I don't know which. Depending on which it is, leads me to wonder what is going to happen with this kid. Is it going to stay a baby or something else?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, when I started looking, because I'm re-looking again at the firstborn and just rethinking of everything, part of me wants to think he's doing this to protect her. That there's something going on. Like, we have the firstborn who the quote-unquote prophecy is going to be about, but what if this other child has the power to take him down? Granted, you're looking at this little baby versus this massive behemoth who bites people's heads off. Okay, yeah, kind of hard figuring there's no way that could happen, but you're dealing with powers of gods. You're dealing with these creatures who defy the normal logic. So part of me wonders if there's something... I want to believe that there's something noble in what he's doing, and not just a... he's not a bad guy. I want to think he's a good guy doing this to protect the child, or doing this to set up so he can take down the firstborn.
I want to commend the creative team on this issue, because they do this really cool thing where Tony Akins does the layouts, but pages 1 through 7 and 10 to 12 are Dan Green finishes. 8 to 9, 13 to 20 are Rick Burchett finishes. I got to give compliments to Matthew Wilson on colors. Because if you take a look at the shift when we go from the Battle of Soraka, for lack of a better, and I'm sorry if there's any pronunciation butchery there, the battle between her and Diana in that tomb, but then you go back to 1917.
Yeah.
There's a really cool shift there in coloring and tone, where we see Hera first encounter her and we see this horror that befell her. That I really loved the way that all changed, because I thought visually that was a really stunning sequence of events. And it was really important that we were captivated by it, because you see what happens to her mother, who was really the one that had the affront with Zeus. But Hera takes it one step further and destroys this child, not realizing that Zeus would take pity on the child, give the child consciousness on the wind, and for her to be able to, have that power set where she's still able to be, to have a consciousness on the wind, and how much it changed and modified her life. Zeus has a creepy way of, taking pity. You're like, if Zeus could do that, why wouldn't Zeus just, make her human again?
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Why did he fix her? Come on, dude. You're the god. You're the head of the gods.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Thanks for nothing.
Yeah. I like how the story's going on, though, because Diana has a chance to talk about all of the atrocities she's faced, everything that's been taken from her, and to try and find some commonality between the two. And for Diana to really say, hey, look, we have so much in common. And one of the things is, I genuinely care about you. And she reaches her that way with her, with her compassion, not her violence, her compassion. That duality of Diana, those sides, that warrior side of her and that compassionate side of her, is really, to me, I need that from Diana. Because that's that part of her where you get there and say, you can understand why people would swoon to her. Because when you see that side of her, you can't help but go, wow, she can kick some serious butt. But the woman's ability to know when to show her heart is something that I think is unique to a female character. And I think it shows the strengths of having a female lead character in this series. It's a little distinction you're not going to get from a male character. And there's something, it's a uniquely female quality, a unique female strength that I think men strive to learn from. And I mean this genuinely. It's one of those things I think we do, but I don't think we can get it right in the same way that they do. And I like that. I think it's a distinction that makes her an interesting character. It makes her a compelling read for me because I'm like, okay, this is not me. I hope I have that kind of compassion on that level, but it's a mother's compassion. Not that Diana's a mother, but I mean, I think we see that come to life oftentimes in mothers. I think that's you. I'm sure you connect with your mother that way. I connect with my mother that way. It's not something I get from Dad. Not on the same level. I'm not saying dads don't have that, but they don't have it the same way Mom does. You know what I mean?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. And I think we get that from Wonder Woman because she's a female, and I think it's cool.
Yeah, and I love the sequences leading up to this. As Soraka's throwing everything at her, throwing knives, and she does the Matrix move, big boulders that she's bashing. The whole time she's trying to reason with her. And I love them going back and forth about, she destroyed me. Well, she turned my mother to clay. She did this. I watched my mother suffocate. Well, I watched my sisters turn into things, all for something Zeus did. And that right there, that's the common reaction. They both had their lives destroyed. They both had their lives turned upside down because of something Zeus did. They didn't do anything wrong, yet they were punished. And this is, you can, take this and hold on to that anger, or you can move on. You can live your life. You can embrace a new family. And I love just this, how she was pulling her in, and she's like, this is no way for sisters to act. And that right there, that whole sequence there, where you see her going from the rage to that scared kind of little girl who's hugging her sister, and it's just like that family tender moment was just something that really touched me and was really like, this is cool Wonder Woman stories right here. This is a really cool hero. This is somebody I want to read more about. I want to see where this plays out. I want to see this little girl pop up again. I kind of want to see her lay a smackdown on Hera a little bit now that Hera is mortal. I don't want to see her kill Hera, but just a little, hey, remember me? Smack!
I liked Diana's defense of her actions with Hera. Where she's saying, and like a whipping dog, you now defend Hera as your master. Absolutely not. I have to believe that there's some way Hera can undo what she's done. She never will. I can't give up hope that she can. And there was no comeback to that because she had to go to, that left her sister to go to something else. I liked that because I'm like, what is the comeback to that? She's right. It's one of those things like, would you give up hope that she could do that? This is the person who did it. Who else has the power to undo it? Her. And until you have validation that she definitely can't undo it, you got to hold on to that hope. Why would you, imagine if you killed her and you found out she could have undone everything. Why would you take that chance? You know what I mean? And that was really cool. I love that there's a sense to what she's saying. I really, really dug that. Then we go back to the gods, which was, again, we see War saying, I would happily murder all of you.
Yeah. See, right here, these are the sequences where I'm like, okay, War's not done yet. But, then I read the earlier stuff and I saw him as just this old, defeated drunk man. And here he's like, he completely calls Apollo out on it. It's like, yeah, you're worried about Wonder Woman because it's a threat to you, not to us, not to me. You're worried about the prophecy of the son of Zeus will kill another and take their throne. That's your fear. And he's like, I, for one, would kill you all. Well, not you, dear, or you either, Smith. I like the fact that he did distinguish between the two nicer of the two gods, the ones who actually were allies and friends of Diana. He's like, no, I wouldn't kill you. You're okay. You're not the conniving ones. And that was a neat, cool, warm moment.
I like the idea with Dio then being sent to continue on. Follow him. I want to see what happens with War and Dio. I do think that Apollo may be underestimating War a little bit, but then again, maybe not. If he just has Dio follow him, he's smart. If he has Dio try to deal with him, he's making a huge mistake. Yeah. Taking on War would not be a smart move unless he has a very, very strong plan. Then we actually see the background story of what was going on with the Firstborn and how this witch couldn't disobey, but took pity and left him kind of abandoned there And it was cool to kind of see him raised in the wild and stuff like that. And now is this chance for him to finally take his birthright. The prophecy we're seeing kind of unfold here. I'm gripped by this story.
Yeah, that was, again, I want to see how this plays. I want to see what's going on here, because this is a full god. This isn't a half god. Where's the power levels? What can he do? We already seen some severe, nasty stuff, but I want to see Diana and him throw down in the worst way possible. It's, again, will she be able to take him?
You know what I like about Soraka after the whole... And if I'm butchering the name, I apologize, because I really enjoy the character. I like that when we see her in later sequences now with Diana, where she's using her powers to try and help Diana, and they're just having these calm talks, that she's kind of a hybrid of the first little girl we saw and of, like, the monster we saw later. Like, there is a calm to her now, and she's, like, she looks like as pleasant as you're going to look, I think, in that particular state. We actually see the happy smile of the two of them. Tell Lennox I was sorry. And I like how Diana's saying, you need to tell that to him yourself. Like, she's trying to bring the family together. She's building this family. I really like this. Like, yeah. It's interesting in the way, like, even if the Amazons do come back, I like the idea of Diana having this extended family that she's crafted along the way. And it's somehow making her... See, I feel like Diana, we're seeing her grow stronger in her compassion. We're seeing her grow stronger as a warrior because she's learning distinctions of choices and when to make them and when not to. And I like going along this journey of growth with her because I feel like we're riding along with Diana. And this is very cool in the way that it's being presented because of this. Because in those moments where she's walking by smiling, I'm like, I really like that side of her.
Yeah.
But I like the kick-butt warrior as well, which is real interesting. And then it shifts to this whole Highfather and Orion thing where he really points to Orion and says, hey, I'm really worried for the Source. I'm really worried for Earth. You know, the threats that are coming from Earth. This is really going to lead to a major war of, I'm guessing, the new gods versus the old gods. And is this going to play... Like I said, I'm curious if this is going to play out here or part of the Trinity War. You know, what is this playing into? I don't know. Is it that firstborn that maybe the All-Father's worried about? Or is it a different threat? Are we going to see this the way Justice League Dark has been hinting the convergence with that Trinity War? Is this going to play in with that? I'm not quite sure what event Orion's father, or the Highfather, is referring to in this moment.
Yeah, when I first read this, I was thinking they weren't going to cross over with the Trinity War. But, you know, there could be definitely... That would be an interesting tie-in. Pulling in the new gods, the old gods, the Trinity War, the magic people, pulling all that together would be kind of that would be a pretty cool event and or happening. But I was initially thinking it was just going to be new gods versus the old gods and the Wonder Woman universe, and just that's where my initial mind was.
And I saw it that way too, but now I'm questioning, and I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Because of the way that the story's playing out, and the way the stuff played out in Justice League Dark, I'm not sure what they're pointing to. I like both options. I don't care either way. So, and I'm not throwing it out like I'm set in either, or I wouldn't throw out both options if I thought it was going to be one way. I would just say, no, this is the way I think it is. I don't think there's enough evidence to indicate which ones it's pointing towards. And I like that.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, I like that as well. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, the mystery's cool.
Wonder Woman's a terrific book. I've been really, really enjoying the ride, and I'm glad. It's very stylized. It's very cool. It's a fun read. Moving forward, I just want to see more and more of this. This creative team on this book really, really understands it. And if you're somebody who hasn't read Wonder Woman before, this is very easy to jump on with trade collections and things now. Give this character a shot, because it's really a cool, unique book that's very different. You know, if you got that book you're kind of on the fence about right now that you're not really digging, give this one a shot. It's different. It's fun.
You won't get away from me this time, Buster.
Once again, sponsoring this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Remember, 50% off all new DC trades and hardcovers. A great month to get that deal from DCBService.com. They are your comic book pre-order source. Over at InStockTrades.com, they have that awesome new 52 Zero Omnibus. It's all of the Zero issues. That was 52 special Zero issues. 1,328 pages, $150 regularly, 50% off, only $74.99. Remember, at that website, $50 or more gives you free shipping, so you've got it right there on that great offer. Go check on their website, though. They've got amazing deals on trades and hardcovers in this holiday season if you're looking to shop for that someone special. It's a great way to do it and to support a sponsor of our show. We want to thank DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com for supporting our podcast. Jim, our next episode, we are going to take a look at Hawkman, which we were going to talk about on this episode, but obviously our discussion didn't leave time for that. That's going to be definitely on the next episode. We're also going to take a look at Batman, Death of the Family. There's been so much going on in both the main Batman title and in a lot of the connecting titles. I really want to talk casually about, obviously I think we're going to do an intense focus on Batman number 15, but I think we also have to take a look at just all the crazy stuff that's going on in all the titles that are attached to it. So I can't wait to do that next week. We will see you then.
Bye!
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and loss and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman. Eagle eyes can't see, Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me, Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian, working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see.